And welcome everybody back to the Lock-In podcast.
How many of these have we done now?
Not since Christmas, have we, Buzz? So, did you have a good Christmas and a New Year?
Yeah, certainly did. Not that I've spoken to you at all, but yeah, it was good. I'm glad it's over now because we took down the tree today.
We're pretending for the telly, Buzz. I know we've spoken to each other significantly since Christmas and New Year, but we're pretending for the telly. Have you had a good Christmas and New Year?
Yes, Mike, I've had a lovely time. Thank you very much. How many podcasts have we done now?
This is, I believe, number 31.
And every time we do one, I still get shocked and scared by when the little intro bursts in just before we get going.
I've just realised, what day is it? It's the 5th, isn't it? We are still allowed the Christmas decorations up. It's not a bad look just yet. But I'm going to change that because if I don't change it now, I will forget to change it next week. So there we go. We're back to our bog standard pub now.
Oh.
Right. So hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Lock-In Podcast. Tonight, we have got an absolute treat for you.
It's brilliant,
we have got an amazing guest. So what we're going to do is we are going to play a recorded podcast that went live on the audio platforms this morning. We're going to play the video version of it so you can watch that. As you're watching it, if you've got any questions, fire them in the comments section because we will be listening. And then there'll be a countdown in the corner to when we're going to go live and do a Q&A with Mr. Steve Robinson. Now, Steve is the subject of this podcast. You'll hear all about him over the next 3/4 of an hour or so. But he's amazing. Baz and I met him a few weeks ago when we were doing some filming for the telly box. And as soon as we met him, we really knew that we needed him on this,
he's amazing.
on this podcast. He's an incredible person. He's a one-armed pilot, which is obviously a very unusual thing, but he's a really inspirational guy, and he's the most down-to-earth guy you'll ever meet. So
yes, so much more than the title of this podcast.
100%. Yeah, I literally couldn't fit everything into the title of the podcast. But he's an amazing. He's really interesting. The podcast's really funny as well. So despite the fact we're talking about a man who had a horrific accident at a young age and lost a limb, it's really lighthearted, really positive, really inspirational, and really funny. Looking forward to that. Apologies that I've got the dullest background. I was
about to ask you about this.
But, and this doesn't happen on proper telly, does it? But my son and my daughter go back to school after Christmas and New Year tomorrow. So I'm not allowed to make noise underneath their bedrooms. So I've been shifted into the kitchen, and this is the kitchen blind and the kitchen curtains. I'm aware I look like I'm either doing a press conference.
That's exactly what it was.
About to shut these curtains, and a deceased body's going to go to be burnt. Either way, it's not as nice an image as it normally is.
I was concerned you were going to announce another lockdown for a second.
Well, I was. Yeah, it does look a bit like that, doesn't it? And I was sat here in a black T-shirt, and I just had to run upstairs and put the first thing I could put my hands on, which is the shirt that's all over my my logo and my avatar and all that kind of stuff. So
you look like you.
But yeah, sit back, watch this, and like I say, we're going to come back on after this and chat live to Steve. So if you've got any questions throughout, either write them down or keep hold of them until Steve comes on after this, or find them into the comment section. We'll write them all down, and we'll put those questions to Steve when this video finishes. But honestly, watch this. It's amazing. It's brilliant. It's really funny. We enjoyed making it, and I enjoyed editing it, which is
you're gonna love this.
I hate editing, and I enjoyed editing this one. So right, I've got to figure out the technology of setting this video and then getting rid of both us two quickly.
We'll get rid of us first.
Yeah. So if I put us into if I do that, then that, get rid of us. See you all after this.
Bye.
Welcome to the Lock-In Podcast for another episode. If you've not seen us and you've not heard us or listened to us before, the idea of this is that me and Baz are sat in our virtual pub, the Brace of Readlings, and we've just got someone along to our table while we have a drink to have a chat with us. We tend to get people in who are ordinary people with extraordinary stories to tell, and we have definitely got one of them today.
100%, yeah.
So our guest today is called Steve. Now, 39 years ago, Stephen's life changed beyond recognition. An accident caused him to lose his right arm, setting him on a path of ingenuity, courage, and determination. Now a motivational speaker, Stephen looks back over his life at the challenges he's overcome and the amazing moments that have shaped his future. Not my words, yes, the words of Steve himself. I've just read the back of his autobiography. Let's get it straight out there. It's called No Arm in Trying. See, we've all got one. There you go. Look, we've all got a copy of this. And
I thought that
it's signed to me as well.
When you read that, I thought that sounds really familiar. I've read that somewhere before.
That sounds quite interesting, that, doesn't it?
I thought you'd actually written that. I didn't realise you were reading off the back of the book.
I thought, wow, that is very. I thought you've been reading the book.
Did you think? Baz, did you think I'd done some preparation for this and done all that and written an introduction?
Well, you left me a bit flummoxed then for a minute because we don't do any preparation.
So our guest today is Steve Robinson, a guy that we met Baz and I met a couple of weeks ago, and as soon as we heard just a little bit about his life, we definitely knew straight away we wanted him on the podcast.
100%.
And here he is. So, as we say, I am reading Steve. So Steve is a one-armed pilot, an aerobatics pilot. And which is, if that's not reason enough to get him on the podcast, what is? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've been reading his autobiography, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through it, and he's not on a flying lesson yet, so we've got plenty to talk to, plenty to talk about.
Can I just say one thing as well? What's really good about your book, Steve, is that you've got these lovely blocks of your photograph sections.
Oh, do you like them?
Oh yeah, they're really good. And what I do like about it is the fact that you can go through those and you can pick up. They tell your story without having to read the whole book as well, which is But it's nice that they go along with the text as well because it gives you a nice visual to go with it.
What he's trying to tell you, Steve, is he's not read your book.
That's what I'm saying.
What he's saying here, he likes to look at pictures. But I'm one of those people as well. I like reading books by looking at pictures.
Yeah, he's basically what he's saying is he couldn't be asked to read your book before you got you on the podcast. At least I've done 2/3 of it.
I didn't even read the back, so I didn't even know what you were saying.
This is the most reading I've done in years.
I've only read it a dozen times, but it sounded. I thought when you read that, I thought that sounds really nice. That's a real good intro. Is that Mike?
What nice intro he's written for me there.
I thought you'd done some real research. You've been on the website. You must have been sort of like stalking me and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I mean, I've read 2/3 of your autobiography. That's a pretty good amount of research. It's more than I've done for any other podcast.
That's pretty good going.
It is. So I'm going to take you straight back. For a spoiler alert, I said that Steve is a one-armed pilot, and the book starts with how he lost his arm. And I know we know Steve well enough to know that he's comfortable to talk about that. I mean, he wrote it in a book for a start.
Yes,
but yeah, Steve, do you want to take us back to how it happened?
Wow, yeah. So, I mean, it's a long time ago. Like you say, it's 39 years ago. In actual fact, it's coming up to 40 years on this April the 19th. So next year, a few months in, and it's One Arm Day. I celebrate every year, so we must get together for a big celebration.
100%. I'm all over that. We're there for that.
On the 19th of April, every year I have a party, and it's called One Arm Day. And but I'll tell you how it happened. I was never any good at school, and I left school in Easter as quick as I could to get away. But I always liked tinkering with motorbikes because I had a motorbike at the age of 13, and that was my escapism from bullies at school. And so I rode my motorbike constantly for 5 years until I went to college and I studied to be a motor mechanic. And I was in my first day back of the final term, and it was a half day because they always made first day back half day, so you can just gently get yourself back into it. So I've been there till lunchtime, went home, went out on my motorbike, and lost my right arm on that motorbike. And I was trials riding and scrambling or motocrossing on my local field. And there was another couple of guys there that I didn't know were there. And one of them must have seen me and headed away from me. And the other guy thought he could do a daredevil type stunt and jump off of a blind hill and over the top of me and my motorbike and impress everybody. But he couldn't do what he thought he could do. And instead of jumping over me, he landed on top of me. And his foot peg ripped my arm off there and then. And it landed 100 meters away from me at the feet of a young kid that I still see from time to time. His name was Brownie. But I think about that kid a lot because it tells me this story that his arm landed at his feet and the fingers were wriggling. Do you remember the horror movie? Was it called The Hand or The Arm?
Yeah,
and his hand crawling along the ground trying to kill you. And I'm thinking, I wonder whether he has nightmares over that. I feel for that kid a lot, to be honest with you.
How old was he, Steve?
So I was about that time. I would have been 18 when I lost my right arm, and he was probably 14 or 15. He was only a young kid, so that must have. I mean, it must have played a bit of trauma on his mind, I would imagine. I was okay. You know what happens when you're the recipient of real trauma? Your brain cuts everything out, and you don't remember everything. You don't remember anything. So I don't really remember anything apart from what people tell me, and even what they tell me. I don't remember. So I'm not sure whether now I'm remembering real memories or remembering what people have told me. And it seems like a bit of a dream, really. But it's not a bad dream. It's not a nightmare. It's just an interesting dream.
I think it says quite a lot about you as a person that the first thing you said then was that you had someone else's feelings that actually was affected by what happened to you ahead of your own feelings.
Well, I was okay, you see, because I was I was just the recipient of it. It was everybody else that was around me that were actually experiencing it. They were experiencing the hurt and the trauma more than I was, because I was a person that really experienced the trauma, but I was out of it. I was drugged up in hospital, didn't know anything about it. So it was everybody else around me that were feeling it. You know, they had 2-3 weeks of despair and worry, where I was just totally out of it, you know, in intensive care, on drugs and not knowing anything. So I was saved all that trauma to a certain extent. The psychological trauma, I wasn't saved the physical trauma. Obviously, that had to be overcome. And the thing is, you just have to overcome it. There is no option, is there? You can't sit down and wait for your missing arm to grow back. It's not like breaking an arm or a leg, where if you sit down for a while, take it easy, 8 weeks later, it'll be fixed and you'll be all right again. It was never that case. Oh, I'm being handed a cup of tea.
Oh,
look at that lady. Oh, there we go. Look, cup of tea to join you guys.
Tremendous.
I'd rather had a rum and coke, but there's no rum on the well, there's rum on the menu, but there's no coke on the menu.
For everyone's benefit, just before we came on, I said, look, Steve, we're in a pub. You need to get yourself a drink. So he's had his mum make him a cup of tea.
Can I ask you a question, Steve? So obviously we hear about like trauma, you know, and limbs being removed in certain accidents.
Yeah.
And there's obviously quite a few cases where people have had those reattached. I take it that just wasn't an option in your case.
Well, in actual fact, they tell me, and my mum tells me, and my sister specifically, that they tried to sew my right arm back on and for 9 hours. And they came out, they kept coming out of the operating theatre and saying to my mum and my sister, we've lost him 3 times. But we've managed to sort of like recover him, get him back, bring him back to life. And we're trying to sew his arm back on. But it's so badly damaged because it was pulled and not cut. So if you have a limb and it's cut off and it's a nice clean cut, there's a more of a chance you can reattach it. But mine was stretched beyond elasticity until it just gave. So just imagine if they had sewn it back on, I might have been like Stretch Armstrong. Do you remember him? I might have had a 6-foot arm.
like Mr. Tickle.
Yeah. Imagine a normal arm this side, a 6-foot arm that side.
Hey, look, imagine how much money you'd have made.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'll tell you what, you could have taken a mean selfie today.
Yeah, from a distance. Yeah, from a distance, a real distance shot. So I often think about that. And, you know, so, yeah, they tried to sew it back on. They couldn't do it. They said it was too badly damaged. All the tendons were damaged beyond repair. And they'd lost me 3 times. So then they had to just concentrate on saving my life. And then they'd come out and they'd say to my mum and my sister, it'd be okay as long as it's not his liver that's damaged. And then they'd come out an hour later and say, it's his liver that's damaged.
Wow.
And then they'd come out and say, we've managed to save 1/4 of his liver. So I lost 3/4 of my liver as well, which, of course, early days when I was recovering, that meant I couldn't drink alcohol. But I was never a drinker of alcohol before anyway. But surprisingly, your liver is one of the only organs that grows back.
Oh,
really?
And I didn't know that, but it grows back. So although I had 1/4 of a liver, I've now got the other 3/4 back, and I've got a full liver again, and I can do a little bit of drinking, although I don't drink to excess.
Well, no, because you've come into our pub and you've ordered a cup of tea.
Well, you know what else on the menu is there? If I just remembered to buy the Coke, I'd have had a rum and Coke. And I'm parched for one. I really fancy one now, seeing Baz drinking his.
And do you know what? It's like we're very quickly, people who are listening, people who are watching are very quickly picking up on the type of person you are. Like Baz said, when you're talking about when you know, quite a traumatic thing and obviously a life-changing event for you, you're thinking about other people. So people are very quickly getting understanding what we understand about you, in that you're very selfless, you think about other people, you're very inspirational, but you're also, it's kind of the reason we thought we need to get him on is because you've got such a refreshing attitude about stuff, and also there's no doom and gloom. Do you know what I mean? It was like if you'd have come on here and it was all like we sat with sad faces, let's be blunt about it, it wouldn't have made a good. People wouldn't have wanted to listen to it. So it's the fact that we can be light-hearted about it, and
1400 hours.
Such a refreshing attitude to it is something that I've definitely picked up from meeting you and from reading your book, because what you've been through and the way you've coped with it. Because quite often, like through the book, you talk about like you were never, you never went through a depression or a grieving process for the limb and things like that, and you were just really matter of fact about, well, that's not going to get me anywhere, is it? So just get on with it.
Well, I never was really, and when I came out of hospital, or when I was in hospital, the nurses would keep coming past and saying to me, you've lost your arm, don't you, Steve? But I sort of knew, but I could feel it, so I wasn't really certain whether I had or I hadn't. And I was too weak to even reply, but they kept saying to me, you've lost your arm, you've lost your arm, you've lost your arm. And it wasn't until one day they asked the nurse to take me to a proper toilet, because all the patients used commodes, and we didn't have proper toilets. And she took me to the staff toilets, and unknown to her, or she'd forgotten, there was a mirror in the bathroom. And when I looked in the mirror for the first time, I realised that all my acne had gone, and I really did suffer at the hands of the bullies because I was really spotty. I had really bad acne. And I looked in the mirror and I was absolutely overjoyed. I thought, wow, my acne's gone. And I was so happy that my acne had gone that it sort of like consumed me full of hope and joyfulness. And I was just overjoyed. Then I looked in again and I looked to see my arm was missing. And I thought, oh yeah, I can't see it. I couldn't move very well, to be honest with you. I couldn't move my neck, couldn't move my head. But when I tried to look down on my right hand side, I thought, oh, I don't think it is there. I think they might be telling me the truth. But I thought, well, never mind, because my acne had gone, and that's all I could think about.
Steve, if you're going to tell me that about 6 months before you wished, you once said, I'd give my right arm not to have acne anymore, this is an amazing story if that's what you did.
I might have said something like that in the past. I can't remember exactly, but a lot of people do say that, don't they?
Yeah.
My right arm for that. Actually, I would never say that. Although, to be honest with you, I could say it now because I can have it because I don't know where it is.
I'd give me right arm for anything because it's probably not in a good nick at the minute now.
Imagine the scabby right arm I might get now if I said I'd give my right arm for that. I'd give my right arm to be a celebrity. Well, okay, there's your celebrity. Where's your right arm? Well, it's down at Leeds General Infirmary somewhere, I think. If they've still got it, I'm
pretty sure they don't. It's not in a cupboard somewhere, Steve.
Do you know one thing that really shocked me about this, and I think this is quite shocking, really? They never, at any point at the hospital, offered me my arm back.
Wow.
Well, yeah.
Would you have wanted it?
I don't know, but if it were my arm,
yes.
Why did you say to me, do you want this arm, Steve? Do you want to stuff it and put it over your mantelpiece? Or do you want to just get it pickled? Or
yeah, well, I've got an amazing image of people walking into your front room and your right arm's there with the middle finger up, stuffed on the mantelpiece.
I like that one. But it just seems a bit weird that they never said to me at any point, there's your arm. Do you want to go and have a sort of like a burial or a cremation for your arm, or do you want it back? And I thought, that's a bit weird. It wasn't until many, many years later I thought, well, where has my arm gone?
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine who was a doctor said, well, just goes into clinical waste, so just throw it away. He said, they might use it for research.
Yeah.
It could be stitched to somebody else at the moment. I don't know.
So basically, you're up in the Yorkshire area looking for someone with a big 6 foot arm on them.
Yeah. I've not met them yet. In actual fact, somebody said to me a while ago, if they could offer you an arm transplant, would you have one? And I thought, well, I don't really know. So then you got to start thinking, okay, but we've only got a right arm from this young girl. She was 15. So we take a 15-year-old girl's arm. I'm thinking, well, then I think, well, yeah, why not? But I'm not sure. It's really weird, isn't it? Because you never have to think like that.
Yeah.
You think if somebody put you on the spot straight away, take this arm, or if I got an Arnold Schwarzenegger, a great big right arm, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to look a bit weird here. Huh?
You can always grow the other one to make it the same size, though.
I could try. And then they were doing arm transplants down in Leeds not so long since it happened, and I think they're still doing them, or hand transplants. But then a friend said, it won't be long before they'll just give you a drug and you'll grow your arm back.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, well, I've been waiting 39 years and it's not here yet. But then would I take the tablet if it meant growing the right arm back? That's a difficult question, because I've known almost 40 years with one arm and only 18 years with two arms. So I guess I'm more used to having one arm than I am two. So would I go back and would I take the tablet? I don't know, because now I'd have to retrain as a two-arm guy, which is a whole new retraining altogether again, I guess.
just talk us through then immediately after, when you've left hospital now, and you're now having to sort of adapt to life with only having your left arm.
Well, I left hospital way too early, really. But the occupational therapist had come onto the ward one day, and I wanted to just get home. I wasn't happy. I wanted to be at home because I had my dog was at home. I wanted to be with the dog, and I wanted to be with my mum, and my sister. And even though I was poorly, I wasn't eating any of the hospital food. It was rubbish, but I wasn't eating anything really. I'd gone from 10.5 stone as an 18-year-old to 6.5 stone. But
how much of that was your arm?
I wanted to ask the same question.
I often ask myself that. I think it'd be interesting if somebody knows, but I think that an arm must weigh at least a stone, but it might not. Somebody said maybe a bit less. A leg might weigh a stone. So when people say to me now, what do you weigh? And they say, well, I weigh 9 stone 3. They say, oh, you're underweight. I say, no, I'm missing an arm. So you can say 10 stone 3. And they say, oh, okay, I'm still a bit underweight, but whatever. But so the occupational therapist said, no, you can't go home, Steve, until you can walk the length of the ward, there and back. And with those old Victorian wards with like 20 beds and about 20 either side or whatever, so 40 beds in total. And she said, and you can't go home until you can get dressed and you can prove to me you can do all these things. And as soon as she said that, I started practicing. She'd only been out of the ward 1 minute, and I was trying to get my socks on, get myself dressed. I was trying to walk up and down the ward, which I couldn't walk really because I had a fractured pelvis and a broken leg, but I was hobbling in pain up and down. And she came back a week later, and she said to me, how are you doing, Steve? I said, I can walk the length of the ward and I can dress myself. She said, can you show me? So I said, yeah. It took me about half an hour to walk the length of this little ward. It took me forever. And then I was exhausted afterwards. And then I dressed myself, and she said, you're really not ready to go home, Steve. She said, you really should be here like 12 months at least. You got this look, you're in a bad way. I said, I know. I said, but you promised me that as soon as I could walk the length of the ward and I could get dressed and put my clothes on, that I could go home. And she said, I did make you that promise. She said, I don't think it's wise, she says. But she said, I did make you that promise. And if you really want to go home, you can. So I said, yeah, I want to go home. So I was out of hospital way too early. I'd been in intensive care, I think, 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. I don't really remember. And I was in general ward for about a week. So I might have been there in total 3-4 weeks, and I should have been there 12 months. And I was back home, and it was great to be back home. And I remember one day I walked from my mum's house to my grandma's house, which was only not well within a mile, maybe well within half a mile, not far at all. It's normally a 5-minute walk from where I live. And I walked to my grandma's house to see my grandma and my granddad. And by the time I got there, I was so exhausted, I needed to go to bed. So I went to bed and I slept for 6 hours. And then my mum come and got me, and I walked down home again a 5-minute, 10-minute walk maximum. And I had to go to bed again for another 6 hours. It took that much out of me that I was so exhausted. But that was part of rehabilitation. And I have, as strange as it sounds, I have fond memories of it. It was just an interesting time in my life.
Again, Steve, we're just having a conversation here about stuff that you, and this is like I say again, this is something I find really refreshing about you. And I don't throw the word inspirational about very easily because I think it's overused. But you are absolutely inspirational because you just demonstrated again there that someone set you a challenge and you rose to it. And there's no sitting about thinking like, oh, what about? I mean, even 3 weeks, 3 weeks after the event, you weren't sitting about feeling sorry for yourself and thinking, oh, what if I wish this hadn't happened or anything like that. You were just like, right, well, this is a situation I'm in. How am I going to deal with it? How am I going to get the best out of it? And how am I going to get what I want, which is to get home?
And that's all I wanted, really. And surprisingly, I don't feel inspiration. I just feel like I don't want to hang around and do nothing. I'd rather just get stuck in and get cracking. And that's how I've been all my life. And I guess things won't change. I'll be like that forever. But I was quite a religious guy prior to my accident. I'd not been brought up in a religious household, but I couldn't go to bed without saying my prayers. I had to say my prayers every night. And that wasn't anything I'd been taught. It wasn't that my family did it or my siblings, anything. It was just something I felt I had to do. And it's quite strange because somebody said to me after the accident, they said, how can you believe in God when he's taking your right arm? And I said, well, no, he hadn't taken my right arm. I said, he hadn't taken my right arm. That was just a fluke accident. I said, he saved my life. I'm still here.
Yeah.
So I saw the positive in it. And then, but surprisingly, I don't pray anymore, and that is because I have a different sort of understanding. And instead of, I mean, I do from time to time, but I have a different type of understanding. I have more of a spiritual understanding. And I think to myself, is that because maybe I've been somewhere and I've come back and I know what it was like, and I know maybe I don't have to pray because they're all there for you when you get there anyway. I don't know. It's a deeper meaning that I don't really know. But I became a spiritualist and attended a lot of spiritualist churches, and I quite like that, and I took a lot of comfort from that.
I just want to say that on a point that Mike made about the word inspirational. Quite often, when you see someone who's listed as being an inspirational person, it's generally because that's their business now, and they're openly trying to inspire people. Whereas the difference with you is that you're inspiring people without trying to inspire people. So I think just generally by your actions and the fact that you got this attitude, which is like, do you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to get on with what I need to do because that's all that's in front of me. You're not looking behind you about what you've done and what's happened to you. You're just looking forward about. And like Mike said, I think with you, it comes across that you see things as a challenge, and you're not going to sort of bow down to that.
I think that's what it is. But I see everything every day, objects and little things are all challenges, and that's why after a while, even a small challenge looks the same as a big challenge. That they're all just the same. And when people say stuff to you like, you can't do that, I think, well, people should never say to somebody else, you can't do that, because to say it with such confidence that maybe it might instill that belief in others that they can't do it. And as soon as you believe that you can't do it, then you've had it.
Yeah.
Because it's because you've let self-doubt creep in, and there's no such thing as you can't do something. If anybody else can do it, or if it can be made by other people or companies, then you can do it, and you can make it. That's for certain, 100% certain. If somebody says to me, I can't make an aeroplane, yeah, I can. I know I can make an aeroplane. I mean, it might take me a while. It's a steep learning curve, but I know I can make an aeroplane. Everything is just a case of how much time you've got to spend on something and how much money you can afford to throw at things. And if you rule out the time element and you rule out the money element, then there's nothing else stopping you, is there?
This goes back to what I was just saying about a minute ago. You don't see that as being anything inspirational. That's just you. But actually, those are such words of wisdom that like people don't understand, that they'd listen to you and actually take that on board. And that's changing people's perspective on stuff just by saying the things that you actually just believe in.
And it's strange because I never had to teach myself these things. They're just beliefs.
Yeah.
But the beliefs that I've proved time and time again, and I'm not that I'm proving them to others, and I'm not trying to say, look, I promise you this is true and I'm going to show you, because it's not always that. It's sometimes if I have any self-doubt at all and I think, can I do that? And then I think to myself, well, of course I can do it. And then now I'm proving to myself that I knew that I could do it and I can do it. So I always found that when I used to compete with others, that it was difficult to lose if you're competing with others. But as soon as I competed with myself, I didn't lose anymore. It's even though you might not come first, and you don't always have to come first, because so long as you can beat what you did the last time round, or the first time round, the second time round, you can do better and better. How have you lost? Because you've just improved what you did before. And I honestly believe that there is no such thing as failure. I honestly believe that. There's only different degrees of success. Some people are more successful than others. Does that mean the person that wasn't as successful failed? No, it just means they weren't as successful, but they were still successful. If I aim high, and I'll still get high. So if my goal is super high, but I don't actually get that high, I only get there, it's still a high level, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what you might as well do. You might as well aim as high as you possibly can. And then when you get as high as you think you can, aim higher than that.
Lovely.
I love these pearls of wisdom in a broad Yorkshire accent. It's just brilliant. Everything should be, every all of these ones where you hear like these inspirational quotes, like like kind of in a soft voiceover music, and you listen to it and subliminally you get like, love it in a Yorkshire. It'd be amazing.
And I didn't think I had a really strong Yorkshire accent, but I think I might have. A few of my friends, fellow speakers that work as motivational speakers, try and lose their accents. And I always said, no, I'm never going to try to lose my accent. I am who I am. And I never want to be anything else than I am. I'm a Yorkshire man, and I'm born and bred in Yorkshire, and I've got one arm, and I am what I am, and I'll always be that.
Amazing. And look, we said before, we were talking before about how nothing, you don't let anything stop you, and you've achieved massive things, and you've just kind of, you've taken the loss of a limb and just got on with it and achieved amazing things that some people couldn't have achieved, as able-bodied people couldn't have achieved. Which kind of takes me on to one of the most notable things you've been able to achieve is to become a pilot. I haven't got to that bit of your book yet because, like I say, I mean, mate, to be fair, the front page of this book has got you with one arm in a pilot's uniform. You did the one arm thing on page 1. I'm 2/3 of the way through. You haven't even had a flying lesson yet.
It's fancy dress.
So yeah, at what age did you just decide, do you know what? I don't care if I've only got one arm. I want to be a pilot.
It was never on my radar, ever. In actual fact,
nice pun.
I was afraid of flying, and I needed 3 weeks hypnotherapy to fly to Spain with friends, and I was petrified of it. But saying that, I used to dream a lot of flying. But I used to dream I used to fly my dreams by flapping my arms. But I always had 2 arms. In actual fact, this is interesting. I've never had a single dream with one arm ever. I always had 2 arms in my dreams. And so it's quite interesting. I've got to tell you something else as well, and I really like this. And because I also have these phantom limb stuff. I know I'm digressing, but I've got to tell you this because I love it.
Absolutely.
And I get phantom limb, which is I don't get pains, but it itches sometimes. And I'm rubbing around here to try and find where the itch is. And a friend of mine said to me one day, he said, you know what that is, don't you? And I said, yeah, I do. I said, it's called phantom limb syndrome. And I said, it's because my nerve endings, I said, still think my arm's there, and my brain still thinks my arm's there, and it's trying to transmit signals through. He said, no, it's not that. I said, oh. I said, what is it? And because I thought he might be more educated than I was. Maybe he was a medical man. And he said to me, it's because your soul's still intact. I loved that.
That's really good.
I really loved it. I had to share that with you because I just loved it. Anyway, that was just it. But it made me, when he said that to me, I thought, wow, that's a nice thing. I really like that. What a positive to come out. I thought, I love that. Because I was just looking at the science behind it. And it just came out of that naturally. And I thought, you're right, my soul is still intact. I thought, I loved it.
That thing that you just said is something that I picked out of the book. And I was just like, I need to write that down because that is a fascinating thing for me. It was like, I mean, you said, well, you always refer to hands, not hand.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, just that you've been without your right arm for 39 years, and you've never once had a dream where you've got one arm. I think that's a fascinating thing. And I don't know if that's a way of your brain kind of coping with it or what it is, but I just find that fascinating.
I've not a clue what it is, but I've never had a dream with one arm. It's strange, isn't it?
It is a bit.
And even if I dream of flying now, and I don't fly in an aircraft, I fly by flapping my arms. And it's but back to the question. I never wanted to be a pilot. It was never on my radar of anything to do. It just wasn't there. And I was afraid of flying. And I've been through litigation. I'd invented a digital jukebox that had earned me a lot of money, and a company stole it. And ended up in 6 years litigation. And I've been in a disastrous relationship. And it was dreadful. And it all, the court hearing and the relationship came to an end all at the same time. And I was desperately sad. And I was looking for a way to end my life, really. And because I'd had enough. When you lose the fight. Now I'm all about fighting and battling on and do it. You can do it and keep going and heading for your dreams and your goals. And it just felt at that moment in my life that all my dreams, all my goals had all gone. And when I looked for a dream, I thought, I have no goal, I have no dream, I have nothing that I want. And as soon as I was in that position, I thought, what's the point of life if there's nothing there that I want to achieve? And then I thought to myself, I have to find a new desire and a new goal and a new dream. And I saw this article on the internet and it said, flying scholarship for disabled people. And I thought to myself, I hate flying. And I thought, I really don't like flying. But I thought, that could be just a dream and the new goal that I want. And I thought, and not only that, if it all goes wrong and tits up and it ends up killing me, I thought, well, I'm all right with that as well. So I was at that period in my life where I thought, what have you got to lose? Go for it. I'll give it a go. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd lost in the court case. Now, I'll tell you, just to put into perspective, why I was desperately down and despair and suicidal, because we calculated that I'd lost £6.2 million in fraudulent jukebox sales. So it was, I mean, I'd earned over £1 million on my jukebox sales that I'd done independently, but the company that ripped me off, I'd sold £6.2 million worth of my invention. So I lost all that money. And I thought, how often is it that you come up with a multi-million-pound product, and maybe you can do a few times in your life, I don't know, but I just felt that time, maybe this is it, and maybe there's no other products in me. And there are, as it happens, but you don't know at that point. And that's why I was so desperately sad. And but then I thought I'll apply for this flying scholarship because I just need a new dream and a new goal. And I was fed up. I didn't have any faith left in people because they'd stolen all this copyright. And to my surprise, I was awarded it. And I was petrified of flying. I didn't like it. And every day I did flight training, I was hoping that it was bad weather so I didn't have to go up. But it took 12 months for the NHS to make me an arm so I could fly this aircraft. But the arm wouldn't work, and it fell off at 3,500 feet when we were doing maneuvers. And we ended up doing a spiral dive and dropping through a cloud. So it was quite scary, especially when you're afraid of flying. But I thought I was determined. And I kept saying to people, how long will it be before I'm not afraid of flying? Or I'm not anxious anymore. And this was a standard question, the standard answer. And the answer was, hopefully you'll never lose your anxiousness or your slight fear of flying. Because as soon as you lose it, you become complacent. And when you become complacent flying an aircraft, they said that's when it'll bite you. So even though I go flying now, I'm not scared, but I'm always aware of the things that can go wrong. So I'm a bit nervous thinking, right, we're taking off, and you're looking around thinking, anybody else around me? And yeah, I love it, but I never thought I would get that far because the arm straight away wouldn't work. The NHS made a second arm that took another 12 months, and that didn't work. And I was so fed up by this point that I decided I'd make my own prosthetic arm. So I bought a milling machine and a lathe and a lump of aluminium, and I started manufacturing this prosthetic arm. That was a bit like a Frankenstein's monster, because I didn't really have any idea what it would look like, but I knew what I wanted it to do, and I had a general idea of the size and dimensions, and I just started making it. And when it was done, it worked. And I went to my local airfield that wouldn't allow me to go to do a solo flight because they wanted me to be able to control the stick and the throttle at the same time. But obviously, having one arm, I couldn't do that. But as soon as I went up and I said, will this do it? Because the CFI, which stands for the Chief Flying Instructor, wouldn't let me do my solo flight until I could demonstrate that I could control all controls single-handed or by myself with this prosthetic arm. Because going back to the first question you said, we're not allowed to modify aircraft, but there's nothing in the rules that says you can't modify yourself. So I modified myself. I left the aircraft as standard. When I went with the prosthetic arm and modified myself, and I said, will this do it? They said, oh, well, if you can prove that you can do the throttle and the stick and all these bits and bats at the same time, he said, possibly. So we went flying there and then with the Chief Flying Instructor, and he made me do above and beyond what he'd make an able-bodied person do, because I had to prove that my arm was up to the task and even better. Anyway, it did, and it proved him wrong. And he said, when we landed, he said, well, Steve, he said, I've got to eat my words. He said, it does work. He said, yeah, you can do your solo flight. And 2 weeks later, I did my solo flight. A week after, I did a cross-country qualifying flight. A week later, I did what's called a cross-country qualifying flight, where I had to fly from my local airfield to Durham Tees International Airport. I had to land and get my logbook stamped. I had to also fly through a military airfield zone. You have to get special clearance to go through their air zone. And then from there, I had to fly all the way down to Humberside International Airport, get my logbook stamped again. And then you have to fly all the way back to your home airfield with the evidence that you'd landed at these two away airfields. And that's part of your navigation, really, to make sure, to prove you can do it. And then a week after that, I did my what they call skills test, which is like your driving test in the sky. And I passed. And I became a qualified private pilot in 2015.
That's mad.
With my own metal arm.
I love that. It's sipping his tea like a mic drop. And he went, yeah, I became a pilot in 2015.
Can we have a quick chat about you as an inventor? Because obviously we spoke briefly when we were talking about the whole arm conundrum and flying, and you were saying that obviously with arm failures in prosthetic arms are manufactured, that you can't afford a failure at what was it, 3,500 feet or whatever it was.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So did you say that you'd invented a? Can we talk about this? That you'd invented a system where you can detach the arm.
Yeah. So what I did is I realised I did a little bit of motorcycling after I'd lost my right arm, not a lot because it wasn't as much fun. And I went to the NHS at that point and they made me a prosthetic arm. And I used to enjoy hill climbing. And I'd gone up this hill, no problem. And I was coming down the hill and the front wheel slipped on the muddy embankment and the bike just fell onto its side. And I just stepped off of the foot pegs under control, no problem. But then the prosthetic arm wouldn't let go. And my motorbike is dragging me down this hill and I'm banging the arm and it wouldn't let go because it had what they called a C hook. So it was shaped like a C and it was made of chromium steel and it hooked over the rubber handlebars so you could push with it and pull with it. But it wouldn't let go because once steel was against rubber, it just wouldn't let go. And I'm banging this arm, it wouldn't come off. And it got to a stage where this motorbike was just about to drop over a 10-foot drop. Now, it might not have killed me, but it would have hurt me. And because it would have dragged me along with it. And the foot peg, fortunately, stuck into the ground and it stopped rolling down this slope. And I managed to disconnect my arm and get off. But at that point, I realised, because I'd had that experience, I realised that if I was going to fly a plane or do anything else or any more dangerous sports, I needed a prosthetic arm that knew how to let go and when to let go. So then what happened is I made this arm and I made a pin here that if I pulled this pin or banged this button, the whole arm would drop into pieces and just drop off me. And I realised that was my quick release mechanism. So if I got into a situation where I had to crash land the aircraft and I had to get out quickly, or I had to detach the arm and bail out with a parachute, even though I ain't got a parachute, I had to just bang this button, the whole arm would drop to pieces, a bit like a Meccano kit, and I would be released and I could get out. So that's what I made. I invented an arm that had a quick release mechanism. And because nobody ever thinks that they want to get out of a prosthetic limb. Once you put the prosthetic limb on, it's on. You don't think you have to get out. But I realised I might have to get out at some point.
So I have a question for you, Steve. So, if, for instance, you'd lost your left arm instead of your right arm, would it have been more difficult to have done what you've done? Because obviously you've made your right arm for a very specific task. If it had been the other way around, would you have been able to overcome those odds, like by making an arm for that as well?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, Baz. It would have been a lot easier if I'd lost my left arm.
Okay, right,
because
yeah.
When you fly as pilot one, they call it P1. We fly from the left-hand seat, so my throttle is on my left hand, but there's also a throttle on my right hand. But all the flap controls and trim controls, that's so you can make your aircraft fly straight and level. It's got like a little elevator trim, they call it. It's like a real little thing on the back of the elevator that you adjust up, and it just makes you fly straight and level, so you can let go of the controls. But all those controls for that are down on my right hand side. So although I'm flying my aircraft, so I'm flying like that with a stick, I'm having to lean across myself to get these other controls. Where if I'd lost my left arm, then it would have been right there at my right arm. But saying that, even though it might have been better to lose a left arm, I'm glad I lost my right arm, even though it was my dominant arm, because I've become left-handed and I had to become left-handed. And I think becoming left-handed has trained the other side of my brain. I've become a little bit ambidextrous, although I can't write with this right arm, but I guess I am ambidextrous. And, and I think that you get a lot more creativity because they say left-handed people are creative. Now, I'm not born left-handed, but I'm trained left-handed. So maybe I'm also trained to be creative. And to be honest with you, I like dancing. I like a lot of dancing. I had partner dancing. And I'd lost my left arm and I had my right arm. It's not the proper arm to dance with because we lead with his left arm and your right arm is the arm you put around your partner.
Right, yeah,
so although I can't put my arm around my partner and give a real good cuddle, I can direct her and lead her with my left arm. So I'm quite pleased that it worked out that way.
I just love how you put a silver lining on absolutely everything you talk about. It's just amazing.
Well, everything does have a silver lining, though, doesn't it? You've just got to find it. You just got to find yours. That's all it is, I think, sometimes.
Going on from you being a pilot, which is a pretty amazing thing to do anyway. How did you go from being a pilot to being an aerobatics pilot?
Well, because I was petrified of aerobatics. I mean, literally petrified. And if you hit an air pocket in an aircraft would drop, you think, oh, what's going on? And you scare yourself to death. And it was one day I saw this article again, and it was on a website, and it was a Davina McCall show, and it was called This Time Next Year. And they were looking for contestants, and I thought, well, I'll apply for that. I wonder what I can do. So I applied for it. And they said to me, what would you like to do? And I said, well, I could ride a horse around the field or do some horse jumping, because I was always afraid of horses. I was petrified of horses. So I took horse riding lessons and competed in the dressage national qualifiers, and I came third in those. But I was petrified of horses. Now I love them. So I thought, I can ride a horse around the field if you like. I said, or I can land my aircraft at like 5 airports in 5 hours, or fly from here to somewhere. And stupidly, I said, or I could do aerobatics. And I don't know, to this day, I don't know why I said that, because I didn't want to do it because I was afraid of it. But maybe subconsciously, again, I didn't want to be afraid of it. So I did mention it, thinking, I hope they don't pick up on that. But it's there, and if they do, we'll deal with it then. But then they rang me up and they said, yeah, we'd like you to do it, Steve. I said, great, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to do the flying to each airport or riding a horse? They said, no, we want you to do aerobatics. And I said to them then I said, no, I said, I don't want to do the aerobatics. They said, and they said to me at that point, aren't you a motivational speaker? And I said, yeah. She said, don't you go around the world talking about how anything is possible? And I said, yeah. And she said, don't you also talk about how you can overcome any fear by using a proven psychotherapy methodology known as exposure therapy? And at which point I realized I'd really backed myself into a corner. And I had to say, yes, okay, I'll do the challenge. But I was petrified, absolutely petrified. So I took on the challenge. And they ring me up on a daily basis and saying, how are you doing? Have you started? We need you to do some video diaries. And I said, I haven't started yet. And I said, well, you got to get cracking. You've only got a year. And it got to almost 6 months in, and I'm not done out. And they're ringing me saying, well, why are you doing out? And I thought, well, because I'm scared. I don't want to do it. So I went to the airfield. I thought, I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to have to get cracking. So I booked my first aerobatics lesson at the airfield. And we got up there with my flying instructor. And my flying instructor, the aerobatics instructor, is phenomenal. He was 75 when he taught me. It must be 77 now, something like that, maybe even older. And he's phenomenal. And we went up and he said, right. I said, what we're going to do? I said, let's just do something gentle. I don't want to go straight into it. He said, let's do a loop. I said, no. I said, I don't want to do a loop. He said, no, not yet. He said, we'll do some steep turns. So we did these steep turns. And they are steep. You're like at 70 degrees. So you're right over. Let me show you that way. So you're like that, really banked over. But so your aircraft doesn't slip sideways, you've got to pull back on the elevator and put more power on. So you go into, it's like driving into a corner like a chicane and putting your foot down in the chicane. You get this, you really push into your seat. And we pulled like 2G just in a turn. And I thought, oh, I don't like that. And then we did it the other way. And then another 2G. And I said, oh, I don't like that. I said, my head's going funny. He said, oh, you've got to look in the direction. He said, so when you go around the corner, you've got to go like that, look. And you've got to follow your head round like it's really weird. So I did that and I said, oh, okay, that did take away the wooziness in my head. He said, shall we do some more? And I said, no. I said, can we end it? I said, no, I don't want to do it. And we turned around and went back to the airfield. And we're just coming back to the approach to land. And I said to him, I said, I've got to do it really, haven't I, Peter? And he said, well, if you want to fulfill this challenge you've made, you do, yeah. And I said, all right, then. I said, take us back, let's do it. And I was on my way back, like I said. So he took us back and he said, right. He said, we'll do a loop. And he said, but before we do a loop, we're going to do some shallow dives. So we're up at like 3,000 feet. And we do a shallow dive to get us airspeed up. And he said, right, pull up. So he shows you, first of all, and you pull up until you get used to this G-force, then you level out. Then you do it more and more, and you get more aggressive, and you keep pulling out. And he said, right. He said, we've experienced a few of those. We've got about 2.5 G there. I said, what we're going to pull in a loop? He said, 3 to 4 G. I said, okay. It's like almost double. He said, let me show you how we're going to do it. He said, I'll talk you through it, and then we'll do it bit by bit. And he put us into this shallow dive, and we pulled up, and then he pushed full power on. So we're like flying uphill with power on. And as you get over the top, you look backwards, and you're looking for the ground, and you see the ground. And as soon as you see the ground and you realise you're coming over, you take the power off so you're not going downhill with power on, and you just come to the bottom of this loop. And as you come to the bottom of this loop, you get all this G-force. So the G-force only gets you at the bottom of the loop. You get nothing at the top, nothing up, nothing down, just at the bottom of the loop. That's where you get it. And I came out of that loop and I thought, wow. I thought, wow. I thought, that was absolutely amazing. I thought, what have I just done? And although I was scared leading up to it, the actual doing of it, I thought, bloody hell, I've done it. I thought I would have it was incredible. He said, right, let's do it again. I said, yeah, okay. And I was all right second time. In fact, I might have said to him, can we do it again? And he said, yeah. And we did it again. And he said, right, he said, we're going to do it again now. He said, but I want you to put it into the dive. He said, and you pull the stick back. He said, and I'll operate the power. So it's step by step. So that's what we do. He did the power until we'd done a few more loops. And he said, right, this time you put on the power. I'll tell you when, and I'll tell you when to cut it. And inside, I think maybe inside 20 minutes, half an hour, I was doing a loop.
Wow.
And I thought, this is absolutely incredible. There are some really nice aerobatic moves that you think, when you do them, you just think, wow, that's brilliant. It just feels good. The loop is the one that you get most G-force from. In fact, and any other of the moves really are quite benign in comparison to a loop. So that's why they want to start with a loop, because that's where you get the most G-force.
So you're now a qualified aerobatics pilot, correct? So, do you have to get permission to do that, or when you're, say you're out for a fly and just think I'm just going to fly from Leeds to Humberside? Can you just pull a loop if you want to, or have you got to let someone know you're doing it? Or
it's a great question. Yeah.
No, so yeah, I can just go do a loop. So what I have to do is you put a little code in your transmitter, and you put 7004, and 7004 means you're going to be doing extreme maneuvers, which makes which allows the air traffic controllers to know you're going to be doing aerobatics, and then we can just pull a loop. Yeah.
I just have the feeling that you've got that squawk code on all the time whenever you fly.
I do. I actually don't do that much aerobatics, because the nice thing about flying is I do like doing them, but you tend to go out for an aerobatics sortie, as you call it.
Yeah.
So we'd book a day and we say, well, this is an aerobatics day, and all you do is aerobatics. But most of the time when we're flying, or when I'm flying, I'm going somewhere. I'm thinking, I'm going to go to the coast today. I really fancy flying around Whitby Abbey. And I'm going to look around there. So you fly around Whitby Abbey and have a good old look around. Then you go somewhere else, you'd land, you'd have your lunch and a cup of tea and have a natter with your friend if you take your friend. Have just a general good day out, and then fly back and land. So under those circumstances, I wouldn't be doing any aerobatics. And if I'm taking a passenger with me, I would never do aerobatics on my passenger without them wanting to do aerobatics. I would never do that, because that is enough to scare somebody from flying for the rest of their lives. So I wouldn't do that. But if they said to me, can we do a loop? I say, oh, yeah, we can do a loop.
It's amazing. I've slipped into a conversation again where, and I get this when I'm reading your book, and I get this every time I speak to you, that we've slipped into a conversation now where I just completely forgot you've only got one arm. I didn't forget, but do you know what I mean? Yeah. It just becomes so inconsequential to everything that you do, because you've been able to achieve all these things and overcome the disability. It just becomes irrelevant. Do you know what I mean? I don't mean any disrespect by that. I just mean that it's like it just doesn't even come into the conversation. You're just like, fly this, fly that, and I'm just like, this guy's got one arm.
It is irrelevant, really. I've got to tell you, it's a minor inconvenience. It's a minor inconvenience that I possibly could have done without. But would I do it all again? I'd do it all again. I'd go through it all again, because my life with one arm has been so much more interesting and exciting than it had been with two arms. But then saying that, I was only an 18-year-old, so life hadn't even begun, really.
Yeah.
But who knows what life would have had in store for me with two arms? I had not a clue. But the life I've had with one arm has been exciting, interesting, and led me to meet some incredible people and do some incredible stuff.
I just want to say thank you, Steve, because like I said before, that you don't think you're an inspirational man, but I made a lot of notes here where it's like you realize you hated flying, so you became a pilot. You hated horses, so you became a dressage competitor.
Yeah.
You hated aerobatics, and eventually you got round to doing aerobatics. And I just think that's, if nothing else, I mean, there's so much about you that's inspirational, but if nothing else, just, getting on with shit you don't want to do, even in daily life and things like that, it's such an important message for people. And I just think, look, I'm blessed to have met you. And honestly, I've got that date in the diary, mate. The 14th of April. Sorry, the 19th of April.
Let's have the big party.
We'll be there. We'll be at your arm party, and we'll be honoured to be at your 40th anniversary arm party, mate. We'll definitely be there.
I'd love you to be there.
Yeah. Thanks again. Thanks so much for being on. It's been a pleasure to chat to you. Pleasure to meet you. And we'll see you all next time. Hello, I'm back. Right, hold on a minute. This is the complicated bit. I need to shuffle that around there and then.
Hey.
Oh God! I need, look. When this is more successful than it is, I'm going to pay someone to click all these buttons. I'm clearly not up to the job.
You're doing brilliantly. Stop it,
everyone. I really hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. I thoroughly enjoyed recording that, and also, like I say, I absolutely hate editing. But I really enjoyed editing that one because I just had loads of fun. It was like going through the conversation again. And ladies and gentlemen, now is the time we're going to get the man himself on. So, live and direct from Yorkshire, here he comes. Mr. Stephen Robinson, how are you, pal?
I'm okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Are we not on video?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, we're on video. Oh, I think whatever happened last time when we recorded it, when your audio was out of sync.
Yeah.
That's happened again.
Oh, fair enough then. So we're all wrong again, are we?
We're live.
We're live.
We're live, but your audio's out of sync. So what did you do to correct it last time? I can't remember.
So that's a really good question. And I think I did this. Let's have a look. I think I went disable camera. And then I think
he went off for a bit and then he came back last time.
This is gripping stuff. This is what you're all here to see. You know this guy that was saying, like, are we back?
Oh, no audio this time.
No audio at all now, Steve. See, this is usually what we sort beforehand. But so anyway, look, he's anyway, Steve, I still can't hear you, mate. While we're trying to sort this out, Steve, I'll tell you what, Steve, jump off and jump back on again. And
That's what we did last time.
Give it a bit of an intro. So yeah, Steve's going to come back on, hopefully with audio. Apparently, do you know what I mean? I mean, bless him. It's like Yorkshire's like the third world, isn't it? So he's having to pedal to power the internet, and I think he's just not pedaling fast enough. I think that must be it. Right, so he'll come back in a minute, and hopefully his audio will be in sync. It was all a bit like a Bruce Lee movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was like a low-budget kung fu movie. So if you've got questions for Steve, hopefully when he comes back on, he'll be his lips will be in sync with his voice.
Can I just say something? Like, even though I was with you when we recorded that, that was a fucking brilliant watch. That was super.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's
yeah, I love it.
I've listened, so I edited that down. Like I say, the visuals are a bit clunky because I edit it together for the audio and just have the video to show on here.
Yeah.
So it was, it was. Since I put the audio up onto the Apple Podcasts and all that kind of stuff today, I've listened to at least the first 5-10 minutes of that 3 or 4 times. I just think it's phenomenal. It's just really. It was one of my favorite ones. No offense to anyone who's already been on.
Exactly, I'm saying.
Don't get upset with me. But yeah, that was one of my favorite ones and still is. Right, Steve's here. Should we see if he's resolved his situation?
Have I resolved it?
I think you're still out of sync.
No way am I. So I've had to close a load of stuff down.
All right. So I think you're better off. I think you're better now anyway.
Am I better? I've closed a load of stuff down because I had loads of processing going on.
That'll do, mate. That'll do. Right, I'm going to whack your volume up as high as I can.
Try. All right, good. Yeah.
There we go. That'll do. I was just explaining while you were gone that you have to pedal to power the internet, and it's like because you're still Yorkshire. It's like a third world country, isn't it, Yorkshire? So you're still struggling with stuff like that.
You see the artificial lighting I've got? I've charged my batteries up all day for that.
Right. People in Yorkshire are still pointing at the moon. It's all right. You're more advanced than most. Right.
Quite advanced. Got me rum and coke anyway.
Oh, good lad.
Got it.
I want to show you. See, normally, for those that are regulars, you'll know that I'm usually in the studio, in the office, in the other part of the house, and I've usually got my beer fridge just down my right hand side, so I don't need to move to go anywhere. I'm in the kitchen now, but by the windows it's pretty cold, so.
Oh,
hey. It's all in there. So I've got my rum and coke. I'm sticking with my beer for now, but I'll join you boys in a rum and coke later. But yeah, Steve, thanks again. Honestly, I don't know if you hear when I was saying it, but I was I've listened to the first 5 or 10 minutes of that over and over again on Apple. Since I put it on Apple, it's on Apple Podcasts. It went on this morning, and I've listened to it loads because I just really enjoyed it. Do you know what I mean? It's I said this at the time, but with somebody who doesn't have the really positive outlook on life that you have, a story about a guy who lost a limb aged 18 could have been quite a harrowing and quite a dark story. But it's just, I love the bits of your story that are just kind of like the bit. I mean, I put it in the highlights on at the front of the audio one. It was just like, I love the fact that when you went into when you first saw yourself with no arm in that mirror, you were just so consumed by the fact that somehow your acne had completely disappeared. You were so enthused and so so encouraged by the fact your acne had gone. You couldn't give a shit that you'd lost a limb. You were like, "This is amazing."
I was so happy. The bit, I don't know if I told you that I was the guy that was walking around the wards, or the old Victorian wards at St. James, at the Leeds General Infirmary down in Leeds. And they were all Victorian wards. And I'd walk to try and get a bit of strength up, and I'd walk all the way around the hospital, places you're not supposed to go. I'd be walking around and I'd be singing because I was happy. And I'd be singing because the acoustics was so great in those old wards, until a nurse came out one day from a ward from nowhere, and she said, "Did you hear that singing, Steve?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I did. Yeah." I said, "It was me." She said, "No, it wasn't you." She said, "They were singing this particular song." And she told me the name of the song. And I think I was doing that Gaudete from Steel Eye Span, because it just got really nice acoustics. And it sounds like monastery singing. And I was just doing that because that was a popular song around about that sort of time when I was in hospital. And it wasn't until I told her the song that I was singing, she didn't believe it was me. She thought it was some angel singing. And I said, "No, it was just me." But that's how happy I was. I was walking around the wards and the corridors of the LGI singing, and I just lost a right arm. And I don't really get it myself, because it never really fazed me, and I don't know why. To this day, I don't know why it didn't affect me negatively. It just didn't. It just didn't at all. It seemed a win-win situation, and I can't. I mean, it doesn't sound like a win-win losing an arm, but
no, it definitely doesn't.
Followed it. No, it doesn't. It doesn't do it. But it just made me appreciate life more. It made me look at life differently, because now I had to look at it differently, and it was all new and exciting.
Our him, our friend Joshua's in the comments. He's watching this right now.
Hi, Joshua.
On that first night we met you, one of the first things that happened was that Joshua asked you about how you tied your shoelaces, and of course, he made a video of you tying your shoelaces, and I remember from that moment on thinking, "We're in trouble here, lads."
Yeah, it's a bit of one tying shoelaces all the way through it, wasn't it? Really, you might have been in trouble then. Had you had to tie your shoelaces one-handed as well? Although, to be honest with you, I would have taught you how to do it.
Yeah. Well, you did. We saw it.
Well, honestly, it was because we can't say much about the show for obvious reasons, because it's not gone out yet. But yeah, for those that don't know, we met Joshua and I met Steve and two of his friends a few weeks ago when we were filming a TV show together. And let's say as soon as we heard a little bit, so clearly Steve, I don't know if you noticed, he's only got one arm. But it's when you first meet someone, because I've not met somebody that's got a limb missing. I mean, brother's got spina bifida, he's in a wheelchair. I'm very used to that and all that. But I've never met someone. So it's always kind of like when you first meet someone like that, you're always kind of like, oh God, you know, and it's like I concentrated so much when I first met you on shaking hands with the left hand, and do you know what I mean? I tried really, really hard, and then it got to the end because we spent 5 days together. I was just taking the piss out of everything, and it was just, do you know what I mean? Because we'd built that, you know, all of us had built that relationship that it was just like, yeah, he's just a mate, and it's cool with it, you know what I mean? And it's fine with it, and it was just so good. I mean, your attitude on life is incredible. It's really it is really kind of heartwarming, and it's refreshing. And loads of people, I'll just whiz through some comments in the chat section, but Jill, who's a regular, says, I mean, who's a regular? I'm not saying she's irregular, like she poos once a fortnight. She's Jill, who's a regular.
Don't dig a deep hole there.
So, fab insight into what a positive mental attitude can achieve. Kathy said, I must learn lessons. And here's a great, so I've got a few questions. Actually, Kathy's just asked one that I was going to ask as well. So I've got some questions that have come through beforehand. But everyone who's watching now, if you've got any questions for Steve, fire them through now.
And don't be afraid of your questions. They can't ask me something that will offend me. Nothing will offend me.
I was just going to say exactly that. So that shows, Steve, how in tune we are. Because honestly, Steve, I know him well enough now that there literally is nothing you can say that would offend Steve about him having lost an arm. Because, as you heard, it's nearly 40 years ago.
Almost.
Yeah.
Almost 40 years ago. And it's April the 19th. April the 19th is the anniversary, and me and Baz are going to be at that party.
For sure.
So everyone who follows us on TikTok and stuff, you'll see loads of it, because we're going to we'll put loads of it on the internet. So
we should have a mega party, and everybody from TikTok can come.
Brilliant.
There you go, everyone. Well, we've got Huxley. Huxley's from just down the road, so he's definitely coming. Right. So got some questions that come in. There's a lady here whose name's identical to my wife's name.
Wow,
because it is my wife. One of the things you said, so you mentioned, I mean, we made a bit of a joke about it, you know, so you're, sorry for anyone who's a bit squeamish, but your arm wasn't cut off, it was pulled off. So it was stretched off. And we made a bit of a joke about Stretch Armstrong and 6 foot arm.
Stretch Armstrong.
And
imagine if there's something back on. 6 foot arm.
That's why I loved having you on here. Do you know what I mean? Because you've got that attitude, and you're cool with stuff like that. But Emma asked a kind of a technical question about it. But how come your arm was stretched and pulled rather than you being dragged along?
Because I was
know the answer to that.
Yeah. Well, you know, I suppose a bit scientific. It might not be. It might be as simple as I was going in one direction, there's a guy was coming in the other direction. So I wasn't going fast. I think I was probably doing 20 miles an hour, if that. Excuse me. But if the other bike was trying to do a jump over the top of me, let's say he was doing 60. But that combined speed is 80 miles per hour, and I'm going forwards, and the motorbike is passing me. So what's happened is, I suppose, it got to a stage where, you know, it gets my arm. It was a foot peg caught me on the inside of my elbow. You know, I don't even know what you call that part of your arm, but the inner arm by your elbow. And his foot peg caught me there, and it pulled it backwards, and it pulled me off the bike, I guess. But there was so much speed involved that it just pulled my arm off, and it pulled it out of the socket. And what happened is it stretched so far that it got to beyond elasticity. And eventually everything gives when you go to beyond elasticity, and it just pulled it out of the socket, and all the muscles and tissue was just torn off. So my right arm might have been a 6 foot arm, you know, and who knows what I could have done with a 6 foot arm.
Well, you'll never know, because the hospital stole it off you.
I'll never know what might have been.
Another question that Emma asked. I'm gonna get me graphics out and impress you now.
Love this.
So yeah, another question that the wife asked was it hard to walk differently balanced? So you were talking about how, I mean, obviously you had pelvic injuries and stuff, so that was the main focus of how how difficult it was to learn to walk again effectively. But yeah, I think Emma's question is clearly, has your body kind of adjusted? And like, is your, are you over to one side a little bit to balance that? Because I reckon an arm weighs about a stone, don't you, Steve?
I'm sure we've had this conversation before. I reckon it weighs about a stone.
We did, and everyone's just watched it.
I've just watched it. And the thing is, I did notice a shift in my balance, and I noticed it immediately. And it was, it was weird because I stood up, and you just notice that you have to stand totally different because you have to now compensate for the weight you've lost. So you're leaning into where, into the missing arm. It was really weird. But what I did is I started doing different things to improve my balance. And when I had two arms, I used to do a bit of trials riding and motocrossing. What they used to say to become a good trials rider and get really good core stability and balance was learn to ride a unicycle. So I bought a unicycle and I started learning to ride a unicycle with one arm.
Of course you did.
Oh, Steve, fuck off. I'm going to kick you off now. You're a pilot, you're a dressage rider, you're an aerobatics, then you've done a unicycle, you can speak fluent Spanish.
And the other thing as well. So I started doing unicycle, learned to ride a unicycle, but I also really enjoyed roller skating prior to losing my right arm. So I got back on my roller skates as soon as I could. And I noticed that all my balance changed. I lived on wheels. It was either a motorbike, roller skates, it was my skateboard, it was a unicycle, whatever. I lived on wheels, and I just loved it. I loved it. But I guess all that, so like unicycling and roller skating and skateboarding, after losing my right arm, just really enforced my balance and gave me more balance. And I've always had good balance, and I've still got good balance now. It's shifted. It's off center balance.
But it works. Gravity is slightly different.
Just slightly change, but it works great. And so it's strange, really. But how your balance is so affected. But even if you break your big toe, you can be falling over. With balance issues.
Yeah. Right. The other question we had during the broadcast, the recorded one there, is a question that I was going to ask anyway, and Kathy's asked it, so we'll chuck it up with Kathy on there. You're clearly a very positive man, and it's got you through a huge amount in your life. So because I've read almost all of your book now. I've gone beyond 3/4 now. I've gone beyond 2/3 now. For those people who haven't got it with me, it's in the office where I've been kicked out.
I've got it.
But yeah, No Harm in Trying. It's available on Amazon, by the way. If you're looking
£10.25.
Yeah, if you're looking for it, it's on Amazon.
Cheaper than I can sell it for even.
So it's called No Harm in Trying, and it's a fascinating read. So I am nearly at the end of it. But yeah, that's one of the things that comes through is you are really, really positive, and there's no negativity at all throughout the book, and everything that you've done in your life has always been really, really positive. But yeah, because the book starts pretty much. Well, I mean, it's it's not like the accident don't happen straight away, but it's quite early on in the book, obviously, because you were 18. But were you positive? Were you a positive person before that? Is this kind of was that positivity there anyway, and that helped you get through everything that you got through, or
no,
is it just
being there? I don't remember it being there because I'd gone through such a hard time at school with all the bullying that life was torture. Really, I'd not had an easy life, and it was really hard, and I wouldn't say I was particularly happy. At school made me really unhappy. When I wasn't at school, I was happy. When I was with my dog and on my motorbike and allowed to play on the fields near where I live, then I was happy. And when I was at home with my mum and my sister, I was happy. But as soon as it had anything to do with school, and that was, let's face it, 5 days out of 7, and it was dreadful. And the only actual day that I ever enjoyed of school was Friday when we broke up, because I thought, great, I'm getting away from it. But Saturday, I started panicking Saturday because I realised that Sunday was coming, and I knew that Sunday was the day before I had to go back to school. So I started stressing on the Saturday, and I started stressing about going back to school on Saturday, and because it was that bad. So I wouldn't say I was particularly positive at school. I didn't think I could achieve anything at school. I was in a low class. I wasn't a high achiever. I didn't have any dreams beyond riding my motorbike and maybe becoming either a chef or a motor mechanic, because I liked cooking And of course, I used to get even more bullied for that because boys aren't supposed to like cooking. I was the guy that liked doing needlework and sewing because I thought, right, I can look after myself, sew my own buttons on and do that type of stuff. If you'd like that sort of stuff at school, then that's not cool with the guys. And I didn't like rugby, I didn't like football, didn't like cricket, didn't like any of those macho sports. I preferred to play something with skill. I'd rather done tennis, badminton, and gymnastics, and possibly even dance. But you know, boys don't do that type of thing, or they didn't do that type of thing in the school that I went to. So
mate,
yeah, I wasn't particularly positive.
If you don't like cricket in Yorkshire, it's not going to work, is it?
I guess. I mean, I liked playing it, but I guess I didn't like it because if you got picked for the cricket team, I was a kid that nobody wanted to pick, so you felt bad about even playing to start with. And then you know they'd always put you in the innings last, and of course, if the guy before you got run out, you didn't even get a go. So yeah, I hated it. I hated everything about it, and there's not one time I can say that I enjoyed school from primary school to high school. It was a prison sentence throughout my whole school life.
It's incredible then, because like I say, everything since then has been positive. But I kind of, from reading the book, and my wife's brought it in to show you how far through it I am.
Oh wow!
Where's me? Hold on. Where is it? There you go. Can you see it? Oh,
yeah.
Hold on. Let me try and I bring it here.
Yeah.
Why is that not
focusing?
Oh, can see that. I'll tell you what. I'll open it to where the bookmark is. There you go. Look, I'm that far.
Oh, wow,
not much left.
You're nearly through it,
mate. Steve, this is that's the most. My wife, when she because I read a bit before I go to bed, and well, when I'm in bed before I go to sleep, and she'll come up and she'll be like, "I've never seen you reading. I've never seen you reading." I was like, "I know, but I know him." Do you know what I mean? And it's interesting. Do you know? I've got another one by the bed as well by someone who's also been on the podcast. By Jay Jordan as well.
Oh wow, is that good? You have to let us know what that's like.
It's really, really good. Well, I say it's really, really good. I've only read the first half. I'll start it when I finish this bit here.
Yes,
but for those interested in Steve's book, right? I'm this far through it, right? And he's only just started his flight lessons, so there's all this of his life that you haven't known about yet. One of the things I wanted to cover that we didn't cover I'll get to more of the questions in a sec.
Yeah,
and I'll keep them coming through. But one of the things I wanted to cover that I didn't speak to you about is something that I did as a youth, but was never very good at. But I loved it because it was cool, and I loved the movies and all that kind of stuff. And we never mentioned it in the recorded thing, but it's in your book that you were quite you were quite the breakdancer by all accounts.
I was a good breakdancer as well. You know, it was really weird that it's because I'd never been into dancing. I never enjoyed dancing. I just wanted to ride my motorbike. And when I used to go to the local nightclub with my mates, I'd be there 10 minutes and I'd pay in. It were only cheap. It were only like 30 pence in back then. It was super cheap. And have a glass of Coca-Cola and have one glass and I'd say, I've had enough, I'm bored, I'm going home. But I'd only been there 10 minutes. And my mates would say, oh, why are you staying? Well, I thought, well, there's nothing in this nightclub for me. What's in this nightclub? I thought, there's nothing. I said I could be at home playing with my motorbike and enjoy myself. And it wasn't until I'd lost my right arm that I realised I'd have to make a little bit more of an effort and I'd have to do different things. So I thought, well, I'll try and stay out a little bit longer at the nightclub with my mates. And they put this sort of like body popping song on. And my mate knew this really simple move. And it went forwards and jerked his shoulders. And I thought, oh, I like that. So he showed me how to do it. And I became hungry for it like anything. You can become hungry for knowledge. And I suppose that was the start of dancing for me. And I loved it. And I kept learning all these new moves and watching TV and learning this move and learning that move. Then I got into break dancing. Then I was doing the moonwalk and I was doing all these brilliant dance moves. And the whole nightclub used to stop and watch me. They used to surround me and watch me dance. And I thought, oh, they must like this. And then one night I was with a friend and a couple of other friends. And we were down in a place called Meanwood, which isn't far away from where I live. And it was in a club and there was a disco on. And he put some breakdancing music on. And me and my mates danced. And everybody stopped and watched. And after we finished, the DJ called me over and he said, I want to have a word. And he called, so we had a chat with him and he said, I'm a DJ, said. I'm a mobile DJ in and around the Yorkshire region. And he said, I want you and your mates to come and do some breakdance displays for me. He said, you'll get paid. He said, you won't get a load of money, probably 150 quid. He said, there's probably 50 quid in it each for you. But we're talking a long time ago. We're talking like in the 80s. So it wasn't a bad night out. So all we had to do was drive there, dance, have some free drinks and get some money. So I said, yeah, okay then. And people loved it. And we went all over the place doing these breakdancing displays. And of course, I think part of the attraction might have been the guy with one arm spinning on his head and doing a windmill. You know, because people were thinking, well, you can't do that with one arm, but I could. I'd practiced hard. I'd done sort of like training on a daily basis at the local sports centre. We'd go up every day, practice new moves, put the crash mats down, and spend hours and hours and hours there. And strange enough, I could never get over the weight of 9 stone 3. Because I was doing so much exercise, burning all this energy off. And then I realised not that long ago, really, after I've done years and years of salsa dancing, I still weigh 9 stone 3. And I think it's just because I've done so much exercise. Just crazy.
You know what? You're talking about breakdancing. Look, this is an indulgence for me because I was really into breakdance. I loved like breakdance, the movie, and all that kind of stuff. I was well into that when I was young. And was it Beat Street and all the electro albums and all that kind of stuff? Loved it. But yeah, I'm not being funny, but I reckon not having one arm would make the windmill easier because my arm's always got in the way. You know, when you're flipping yourself round, my arm's always get in the way. So I reckon, I'm not giving you credit for that one. The windmill's easier with one arm, I reckon.
Except depending how you started, because what you used to say, spin your back and then come up onto one arm. Do you remember? And you had to jab the one arm into your stomach, and the other arm would be the one that would just hold you in that position. So I could never do that, and that was a more slower controlled windmill. So I couldn't do that. So I'd start on my back and kick my legs. So it was sort of like you could do it, but it was just sometimes a bit hard to get into. And then after a while, I got to a stage so that I could be stood up. And I could just throw myself onto the ground, onto my left arm, and push with my left arm at the same time. So we're almost doing like half a one-handed handstand. And it'd bring me down naturally into sort of like a breakdance, sort of like windmill position. And I'd start flipping around. Yeah, I loved it.
So weirdly, one of the best break dancers in the world is a French guy with no legs. Just putting it out there.
I've seen that guy. I've seen the guy salsa dancing on crutches. He was brilliant. And
wow.
I seen a guy doing breakdancing, and he sort of like he had no control of his legs, and they were beyond the splits. And we were flaring round in the sky, and it was like a helicopter on crutches. Have you seen him?
Yeah.
Well, on breakdance, the movie, there's a guy on crutches.
Yeah, there's a guy there. Yeah,
amazing.
That's him. I think that's the guy.
Yeah.
Breakdance the movie. I went to the local Odeon to watch that. Everybody was breakdancing in the corridors.
I love the fact that every time we speak to you, Steve, we find out something new and incredible about you.
So much has happened.
That wasn't new for me. That wasn't new for me, Baz, because I bothered me asked to read his book, pal.
Yeah, I've just read the bit at the back now, so I'm good. I don't need you. You'll read it for me.
We've been through this. We've covered it.
There's loads, Baz, loads. I keep remembering stuff that I think, oh, why not put that in my book? And because you can't put everything in, can you? I mean, it's already got 380 pages. It can't be the War and Peace of Stephen Robinson, really.
I'm going to give it a proper plug now. It's a really good book, and it's just like it's really just conversational as well. It's like Steve's chatting to you, and every word I read in that book is in a Yorkshire accent. I'm not going to lie. It's like every word I read comes into my head in a Yorkshire accent, and because Steve's very much into. We'll come on to we didn't mention this in the pre-recorded bit as well. So one of Steve's businesses was, or still is, or one of his passions is refitting antique jukebox or old jukeboxes. So music and dancing and everything has been a big part of your life. And I love that there's loads of references to music all the way through the book. So all the way through the book, it's like, this song was top of the charts and it really resonated with me because of this. And then at the end of every chapter as well, another thing that I like is the lesson I learned there was this. And I think that's probably why. So when we were saying before, are you a really positive person? I honestly think that a lot of it is just, the Yorkshireman in you is just like, well, there's no point moaning about it, is there? Just get on with it. You know what I mean? It's just, do you know what I mean? There is that element. You are a hugely positive man and an inspirational man. But I honestly think there's a huge chunk of Yorkshire in there as well. It was like, well, I can sit and moan about not having an arm, but what's point in that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you're right there. I think it's possibly the Yorkshireman. And I think also there was a positive person inside me fighting to get out, but maybe didn't have the bottle to let him out because I was just, I'd had such a bad time at school. And I was only a young kid, really. And I suppose I'd not had the benefit of a father in my family to tell me how to sort of like behave like a man, fight back, do this. I mean, my advice was from all the all-women family I've got was sticks and stones won't break your bones, Steve. And that type of thing, but calling names and all that type. Sticks and stones will break bones. That's the one. But calling names won't hurt you. That's the one. But in actual fact, the calling names are the ones that hurt you most.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was. You don't realize that leaves psychological scars where the sticks and stones and breakages just repair, don't they? But so I didn't have the benefit of a man to say, go and punch him on the nose, kick him wherever, and then if he gets back up, run. He never told me that. I didn't know what to do. Or if he gets back up, kick him while he gets back up.
I'm going to clip that bit of audio and have it going like, when he got to sleep, like that. Yeah. Punch him in the nose, and if he gets back up, run.
Yeah, well,
I'm having it. I'm either going to play it to myself when I go to sleep, or I'm going to have it as my text thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or you take on you text a message.
Text alert.
But the beauty of that is, and I do think it did me a big favour, is it taught me resilience, didn't it? Because I was going through some hard stuff at a young age, and I think it taught me a load of resilience, and it taught me how to sort of like to fight back ultimately, and fight back against anything, and fight back against losing an arm. So I do believe it really did me a power of good, did all that bullying. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to find the bullies and shake their hand and take them for a drink.
No.
But similarly, I'm not gonna be upset with them. I'm not gonna sort of like be angry with them. It is what it is. They were kids. I was a kid. It is what it is. But definitely, it's losing an arm and losing my spots brought me out of my shell, definitely, and turned me into a different type of person altogether.
I think that's incredible because that's one of the most incredible. I mean, there's lots of incredible things about your story, but I think for me that is the most incredible part of it. Is that you talk about having being miserable at school and not being a very happy young man before the accident, and then something that would possibly ruin or certainly massively change somebody else's life somehow has turned you from being someone who's bullied and within the shell and all that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, you're not only a guy who's had a history of bullying, you're now a guy who's had a history of bullying with a disability. And somehow you've come out of the other side of all of that as like a hugely positive person. And, very, I think from reading your book, I think one of the things I think is most impressive about you is, yes, you're positive and all that kind of stuff, but it's the determination. And I think that's what drives a lot of who you are and why you are the way you are. It's like someone tells you can't do it, you're like, bollocks, I'm going to do it.
Please,
and it's just
please don't tell me I can't do it.
I'm not going to be like this. I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be like this. And it's like, I'm scared of flying, so I'm going to become a pilot. I'm scared of horses. I'm going to become a dressage rider and be third in the country. I'm petrified of aerobatics, so that's what I'm going to do next. And then it's like throwing yourself in the deep end at everything, despite all the knocks you've taken your whole life in terms of, in the book it talks about, you wanted to be a teacher in foreign countries and they wouldn't take you because you only had one arm and things like that. So despite basically getting kicked in the teeth your whole life, you're so determined. And I think it's the determination that has made you the sort of person you are.
I've just seen a question there by Hooksy Rocks. How do I clap? I love that one.
That's how you do it. Brilliant.
It bloody hurts. Yeah, well, I don't always. I sometimes go like that, clap on my chest or whatever. Or I sometimes pretend I'm clapping and then somebody will put another hand there. But if I slap my face, you can hear it, but it bloody hurts after a while.
Well, I'll tell you what. You can tell Hooks is a Yorkshireman because he comes straight in with to be fair, you said you can't ask anything that is going to embarrass you.
No, it won't be offended.
It's taking the Yorkshireman to pluck up the courage to ask a daft question like that. So that's fair play. But yeah, one of the questions that was asked quite a long time ago, actually, and I want to ask this because it's one of those interesting things. it's from Gillian again, who is a regular. Is your handwriting similar to when you wrote right-handed?
Do you know what? It's funny you should ask that, because I just found some notes just the other day that was from college when I had two arms, and I used to write joined up, and it was quite neat. But of course, like anything, when you're under stress and you're writing fast, it sometimes quality goes. But I was a quite neat writer. But in actual fact, now I'm as neat, if not neater, which is weird because I'm not left-handed, but I am trained left-handed. And you might see, in actual fact, one of the things we were doing on television, I wrote down something on a big notice board, just because it said prove this scientific theory, and I wrote it down. I thought I'll just write it down, and then everybody commented later saying, "Oh wow, that's neat handwriting, Steve. Who did that?" Well, I put my hand in the air. It was mine. Yeah, it's quite neat. It happens. It is quite neat. So I do surprise myself. I ain't got any here to show you. But
when we got you to sign our books when we were in the pub that night, literally, I never even thought about like whether there'd be any difficulty, because I hadn't asked which hand you favoured before the accident. So I just gave you the book, said, "Can you sign it?" And then you just got on with it. And then obviously you signed everyone's books that day. How long did it take you to be able to go from being left-handed then to writing again?
Oh wow, that's a strange one, that, Baz, because when I first got out of hospital, I was all contorted. My head was on my shoulder was risen over, I couldn't move, and I had to go for physiotherapy. And I only got about a week or two of physiotherapy for him to try and straighten my neck up. And then they sent me for handwriting lessons. And I got 2 weeks of handwriting lessons where I'd have to turn up once a week or twice a week, if that. And all they had me doing was writing lines like they used to, when you were at school and you'd been a naughty boy and they make you write lines and lines. Well, that's what they made me do to sort of like to learn how to write. But it was so boring. I had to do A's and E's and I's and loads of them. And I hated it. And I went back to college to finish my last term off. I only had about 2 weeks left. I'd missed the whole term. But I said, I can't write. And I couldn't write to do, to sort of like take notes. So I said, don't worry, just come and sit in and listen. So I did. And then it was weird because I didn't really notice a time where I couldn't write, and then all of a sudden I could write. What happened really was a gradual progression. I mean, I couldn't write at all. I couldn't write for toffee, and then it got a little bit less messy and less messy and less messy until I realized that if I printed everything, when I wrote, I was a really slow writer, but if I printed everything, I could write relatively neat and it was eligible. And then I became a bit faster and a bit faster. But in actual fact, I didn't do that much handwriting because after that, computers came in. I was always typing on a laptop. And when I did university, I had a laptop and I was really quick at typing and didn't really need to write. So I can't tell you that period of time, but I bet at least it would have been, 10 to 15 years before I could write properly left-handed.
Wow.
It was a long time. Right,
we've got another question here from Gillian. This is the sort of questions. So these are the sort of questions I want to move on to now. Okay, so we've had Huxley saying, "How do you clap?" Nice.
Yeah.
And now we've got Gillian saying, "Do you ever prank people with your armor?"
I did well, I don't wear the arm ever, to be honest with you. But I used to go out now and then to the local nightclub. I used to think, how am I going to pull some nice, interesting woman? I thought, I need a bit of an angle. So I had a prosthetic hand that belonged to the arm. And I used to put it in my back pocket and have the fingers stuck up like that. So people would come and say hello and say, "Oh, what's that? What's that in your pocket?" And it worked for a little while until everybody started bending their fingers and they all broke off. So it didn't last for too long, really. And I thought it wasn't really good enough. It wasn't a good enough chat line. You give us a hand, will you? I know, or I'd give them a hand or whatever. Can I give you a hand with that? So it wasn't good enough. And chat lines don't work. But just going back to the thing about fears, when I was afraid of flying and afraid of horses and afraid of this and afraid of that, how I got into that is one of my mates was a salsa dancer. Once I started dancing salsa, and he was a psychotherapist. And he said to me, "Why are you single, Steve?" And I said, "To be honest with you, I hadn't a clue." I said, "But I hate asking women for the telephone numbers." So he said to me, "Right then," he said, I want you to do me a favour. He said, right, yeah, okay. I said, what? He said, every time you go out, every woman you meet, he said, I want you to ask her for a telephone number. I said, no. I said, I can't do that. He said, no. He said, I want you to just ask her for a telephone number. He said, it doesn't matter whether you're interested in her, whether you're attracted or you're not. He said, just ask her for a telephone number. And I thought, well, I said, I'll try, but I don't think I can do it. Anyway, I started and I said, can I have your telephone number, please? And people would say, no, of course you can't. And now and then somebody would. And then I got a bit braver and I said, give us your telephone number. And they'd give me the telephone number. And then I got even braver and I gave them my mobile phone and say, here, put your phone in there, put your number in there. And at the end of the day, I had a telephone that was full of women's telephone numbers, but I didn't go that extra step and I didn't ring them. And you know, those guys know about the 3-day rule, don't we? Where if you meet somebody, you can't ring them straight away, can you? Because that would show you're too keen. You can't ring them the next day because you're still too keen. So the optimum period when you can ring a woman is 3 days after you've met her. What a load of rubbish. I realised it was a load of rubbish. Because if you like her, you ring her straight away. The same day, I really enjoyed that. Can we do it again? But I didn't do that. And I'd left it like months and I'd done nothing. So I thought, right, I'll delete the whole lot. So I deleted the whole lot. And there were a whole swathe of telephone numbers. But I realised I'd left it too long. And the idea of that was just to get over my fear of asking women for the telephone numbers. I am not actually afraid of asking women the telephone numbers anymore. I just don't do it very often.
Do you know what? There's hundreds of women in the 80s who just think, remember that lad with one arm was really nice. We got on really well. It was like,
why didn't you ring me?
He asked for my number and never rang me.
Why didn't you ring me?
I know. I don't know who he thinks he is. He goes around getting me number, like led me on, asked for my number as if he were going to take me out, and then blank me. Horrible.
I'm still sat here 25 years later and he's not rung me.
Yeah.
I've got a little story, and obviously you two could cut me off if it's telling too much. But when we met Steve, here we are. We're all in the same file now.
We're all on the same drink now. We're rum and coffee.
Yeah, good.
So I'll try to tell this without giving away too much. But obviously when we met Steve and we were on the same thing, doing the same thing together. The producers were a little bit concerned about some of the things that we talked about, what we were going to be doing. So on one given day, do you remember, Steve? I came to you and said, look, Steve, I need to ask you a question. And you'll probably say to me, don't be so daft. So I said to you, look, in the thing we're doing, I've got this box of hands. Don't ask me why. Do you mind if we use them in the way that we've been using them before? Sort of convoluted story. And you went, come and show me. So we went round the back of the thing and we went into this box and we got these hands out. And do you remember you took one and you said, "Oh, can we stitch it to the side of my to my side so it looks like I've got a hand down there?" And that's what I knew straight away, the kind of person that you were, because you were literally not bothered by it at all.
Just for the benefit of everyone else, I need to point out these are mannequin hands.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Bass did not have a box of actual human hands. We just need to clarify that, just in case anybody's already ringing the authorities and reporting Baz.
It still sounds weird having a box of mannequin hands.
You know what I mean? Otherwise,
I do remember it.
You know, Steve, you said you didn't know where your arm was. Maybe Baz has got it.
Maybe Baz has got it. Maybe sent a request and they sent him it. It was strange, that, Baz, when you said that, because I thought, what a nice thing for him to say. I thought, why on earth did he think he had to say it? And I thought, you don't have to ask him. He can just do it. It's all right. But I'm totally with you there, because some people can get offended, and I don't know how you find out if they get offended or not. I suppose you have to do what you did, Baz, and you have to say, look, do you mind?
Yeah.
But to be honest with me, I thought when you asked, I didn't, at no point was I remotely offended that you would want to use an arm. Not one little bit. So I was quite pleased you wanted to. I thought it were nice. I thought it were a bit of fun.
Well, people will see when the show's aired. Not only were you not offended, but your team came and asked me for one, and they'll see where it ended up at some point.
And again, I look for the regulars that are here. Again, apologies, we can't. I mean, we've kind of. I know it's frustrating. It's frustrating for us that we're not allowed to tell you everything, and I know it's frustrating for you to hear this, but. When the TV show goes out, look, just between us, wait until you see what Steve and the guys did with the mannequin hand. that they borrowed from Baz. It's phenomenal. And it just, when you see it, you'll appreciate how funny it is what they did with it. And do you know what? Exclusive announcement here. We obviously we were on a TV show, and that's where we met Steve. We also met a guy called Paul, and Steve and Paul are going to come back on the podcast. We're going to record it in the next few weeks, and we're going to talk about what happened on the show.
And we'll have Joshua.
Not allowed to, so we're going to record it in the next couple of weeks, but we're not allowed to broadcast it until the show's gone out. But all of the frustration that you and we are feeling now that we're not allowed to talk about, we're going to get all that out into this one, and we're going to, like, when it airs, honestly, when the TV show airs, you're going to be sick of the seeing about it, hearing about it. Me, Baz, Joshua, it's going to all be all over TikTok and Instagram and everything. You'll be sick of the sight of it. So we're going to go from one extreme to the other, not talking about it at all. So you're just going to be sick of hearing about it. But we'll remind you, in the one that me and Baz do with Steve and his mate Paul, we will remind you of this moment where we talk about the hand that we lent their team. I mentioned team. Anyway, you know what I mean. But yeah, the hand that we lent them, we will mention that again, and we will kind of refer you back to us talking about this.
It's funny, just mentioning this is like, because Joshua just made a point. It's I think quite often it's other people making a perception about, like, someone like Steve, if they, that they would possibly get offended by stuff, and actually the real question is, go and ask that person first. And quite rightly, if you'd have said, "Oh no, I'm not happy with that," we wouldn't have done it. But you literally embraced it so well. I went back to Mike and said, "No, he's fine about it. He's fine."
and I think that's okay, because clearly Steve was fine with it. But if some people at home might have been just kind of like, "Oh, that's a bit insensitive."
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? But at least now, if they do get complaints, well, they won't get complaints when they see what they did with it.
I like what Jill just said.
I love it.
You meaning to lend a hand. I like that.
There you go. Let's bring that one to the screen. Gives a new meaning to lending the hand. It really does.
Yeah, I like that one.
But yeah,
I've heard them all, of course, before. There's no new jokes, My mate said to me a while ago, "Are you going to the second-hand shop, Steve?" And I thought about it, and I thought, what's coming up next? What am I going to buy? And then it clicked. I thought, that would have beaut, and that rolled me over laughing. That. And another time, I'd just come down from flying, and I had my prosthetic arm on, and one guy said to me, "Hey, Steve," he said, "you should get a dildo on the end of that." And my other mate said, "There's already a dildo on the end of it." I really like that. My mate is quick, and he has some great comebacks. And I thought, and that just cracked me up.
That's brilliant. I was like, that's a bit weird, and then it turned into, no, actually, that's brilliant.
It just cracked me up, and I know it was at my expense, but it was so funny that I was rolling around in laughter. I just loved it, and I don't mind that sort of stuff. It's a bit of fun, it's a bit of banter. I thought it was brilliant. And me and him became really good buddies and went flying all over the place together. And we'd hire the aircraft. I'd fly it to wherever we were going, and then we'd land and we'd have lunch, and then he'd fly it back, and we'd split the cost of flying, because it's not cheap. It's like 150 quid an hour to rent the aircraft I fly. So if we fly out an hour and fly back, it's 300 quid. So you need to be sharing with somebody, really.
Yeah.
So it's not cheap, but cheaper to buy your own aircraft, but you've got to fork out 40-50 grand to start with.
So can I ask, do you have a massive collection of right-handed gloves at your house that you never use?
Strange you should say that. And not that many years ago, and it might be 2 years ago, I was in Harrogate, and I went into this bar, and it was a lovely bar. And I wanted to play pool, and I was playing pool with my mate, and the barmaid came up to me and she said, "Do you want to borrow a pool stand for a one-handed man?" I said, "What?" She said, "Yeah, we've got a pool stand for a one-handed man." I said, "Well, I have a pool stand at home." And I said, "Yeah, can I borrow yours?" And she brought this stand out, and it was very similar to mine. I said, "How come you've got a pool stand for a one-handed man?" She said, "The owner's only got one arm." I said, "No way." So she said, "Yeah, I'll go get him." And he came out, and there was this guy, and he was missing his left arm. So out of the shoulder, like me, but, or the other arm. And we took a photograph together, and I've got to share that photograph with you. It's absolutely mega. And we're stood there on like behind this really interesting board with height sort of like lines on it. And we're both doing jazz hands. I'm doing it left-handed, he's doing it right-handed. And it's a mega photograph. And
if you want to see that photograph, by the way, go to Steve Robinson's website because it's on there. I saw it the other day.
I love that photograph. And he was the owner of the bar who only has a right arm and not a left arm. And about 6 months ago, got a parcel through the post, and it was about 20 left-handed gloves. So I sent him all my right-handed gloves. So I have a friend now that I can share gloves with.
That is amazing. That is so cool.
So it just reminded me of a sketch on a comedy show years ago, where there's basically a couple of guys with one leg on crutches in the middle of a town, and what it does, they pull up to the front of a shoe shop, and they go, right, grab them all now, and of course they just take all the shoes off the front rack out the front of the shop because they've only got one leg and they can just nick all the shoes, can't they?
Imagine if you get the right foot though, and you're a left-legged person.
Exactly.
You're then, aren't you? You got to go find a mate. Somebody just said this. Jimmy B's just said, hasn't he? There's a guy on TikTok with a missing leg who has a mate with a missing other leg, and they buy shoes together. Calls him soulmate.
Calls him his soulmate. Let's bring that.
Brilliant.
I like that.
Jimmy B is another regular who is like quite often the source of much amusement. There's a guy on TikTok with a missing leg that's got a mate with missing the other leg, and he buys shoes together, calls him his soulmate. That is brilliant. I know, Jimmy, that's not your joke, but again, you've made us laugh, so fair play. That's incredible. That's incredible. So here we go. Right, here's one for the chat section there, for the comment section. Right, so we've heard that Steve's got a mate who's got the other hand to the gloves that he has, and he shares the gloves. He's not a soulmate. What is he? Come up with something. Right, and
it could be quite dangerous, that one, couldn't it? Right. It can't be an hand, mate, can it?
Here we go. I'll just, for the benefit of everyone that we were talking about before, I think I can use some technology here and just go.
Oh.
And there we go. Oh, this is the photo. There you go. Look at this. This is the photo that Steve was talking about. It's the guy in the pub in Harrogate who's got a missing left arm, and Steve's got a missing right arm. Do you know what? I didn't even know. When I saw this, I just saw jazz hands. I was like, yeah, whatever. Because it looks like he's got his arm behind you.
No, it looks weird, doesn't it? It does look like I've got my arm behind him. He's got his arm.
Yeah, it just looks like you get your arms around each other.
It's. Do you know what? That photograph is brilliant. I love that photograph.
It's amazing.
I think it's such a great photograph.
You look like Siamese twins.
We do, don't we? And he's a good friend now, and he lost his arm on a motorbike. In actual fact, he's in Thailand at the moment doing a motorcycle tour.
Wow.
Oh, well, I asked the chat section, and they've delivered. Here goes Jimmy. Jimmy says, he's your right-hand man.
Right-hand man.
There you go. Come on. He's like, that's brilliant.
Jimmy, you're just too quick.
Hey, and not only that, Hoxie, the Yorkshireman, he's gone. It's all about the power of glove.
We could do a karaoke version of that, couldn't we? Sing the power of love. We'll sing the power of glove. Somebody should do that. Hoxie, can he sing? Can you sing, Hoxie?
Oh,
I think Hoxie should do the power of glove.
He's a drummer and a guitarist as well, so I'm pretty sure he can sing.
I think they should do a version of the power of glove.
Baz. Drummers are drummers because they can't sing. Come on.
He can play guitar as well. I was going to say, because that's literally reminded me that one of the challenges for you would be to learn to play a guitar. I have no idea how you do it, but I know that there are one-handed guitarists, aren't there?
Play the trumpet.
Oh, go on.
Play the trumpet. Have you not seen if you have a quick look on YouTube, you'll see me playing Dvorak, which is the Hovis song. People will recognise it as the Hovis song.
Yeah.
And I'm playing that on the trumpet. So, but I'm not the best trumpeter.
I was. Sorry to interrupt you, Steve, but I put a little section of you speaking, and on the Locking Podcast TikTok channel, which is only little at the minute, but I'm going to grow it. And it was you saying, I said, pilot describes losing his arm in the most Yorkshire way ever. And it's you going, it was a minor inconvenience. And it's, I probably could have done without it. Do you know what I mean? And I just thought it was fucking amazing. So I put it on as that. And the tune I put behind it, if you listen, it's tune. Anyway, Steve, I don't believe you can. Do you have a trumpet anywhere close to you right now? Because I don't
go get one.
Yeah, go on.
You can play the trumpet.
Give me a second. It might be loud. I might deafen you.
We've got.
It's all good. It's all good. So, ladies and gentlemen,
we've got the podcast band again, haven't we?
There you go. Here we go. This is it, man. This is it. I tell you what, though. While he's gone, in all seriousness, if anybody wants to come and celebrate with Steve on the 19th of April in Leeds next year, Huxley, you're a given.
This year,
because I'm coming all the way from Ireland. The Baz is coming all the way from
Bedford.
I know, somewhere in Bedfordshire. So we're going to go up and we're going to celebrate with this man. I mean, who celebrates losing their arm? But he is absolutely celebrating. As you've seen, it's changed his life in a massively positive way. So we're doing this, right? We're going to take loads of people. Now that he's gone, we can secretly talk about it. Let's get loads of us up to his 40th anniversary on the 19th of April. So we'll be in touch. Right, here we go. Come on, let's have some then.
Let's see if this valve's sticking. Hang on, give it a second. I think I've got a sticky valve. Give it a second.
Are you sure you're just releasing a valve there?
Yeah.
Steve, you know your camera's on, yeah?
Yeah. All I'm doing is, did it look weird, did it? Right, here we go. Let's see if I can remember it. Let me see if I can remember it. So, it's all right. Oh, nearly. Let me remember it. Oh, nearly got it.
It's all right, Steve. Steve, that's brilliant, right? And it's another thing to right. So I tell you what, let's do a little section. Look, now we're getting towards the end of the podcast, and we've all had a couple of drinks. Let's do a section on stuff you can do that will make able-bodied people embarrassed.
Sorry, before we go on,
you've done the playing the trumpet.
Yeah.
One of the things that you talk about a lot on the in your book is your fluency in Spanish.
Yes.
So, right, I'm going to ask you a question.
Speak.
I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to answer me in Spanish.
Okay.
Okay. So, Steve, what is the what's the biggest change in your life since losing your arm?
Pues en ese caso me has preguntado cuál es la mejor cosa que ha cambiado en mi vida desde que he perdido mi brazo. Pues yo creo que la mejor cosa. Pues no sé, porque tengo un montón de cosas que puedo hacer y estoy muy contento que puedo hacer todo. There you go.
Can I just say,
that literally could have been a fucking shopping list in Spanish, but I'm still impressed.
Well, I didn't actually say anything. I just said, "What's the most thing that I've achieved?" And I said, "Well, to be honest with you, I've achieved a lot, and I'm not really sure which is the best things that I've achieved. I'm still trying to achieve stuff, I guess."
Can I just need to point out one thing. So Gillian said, "Can you do the hokey cokey?" And I'm guessing is put your right arm in is the bit you can't do, right?
Well, no, so I have to do put the left arm in.
I love
the left arm out. Put your right arm in. I'd have to go like put my right shoulder in. Put my right shoulder out. So
you know,
I don't have that one.
You know when we got to the point where we said to people like, any questions whatsoever? Gillian has 100% taken that.
I tell you a while ago when I went doing some dancing. I went to a Ceilidh and I'm doing this Ceilidh dance with my girlfriend at the time, and this guy's shouting out instructions and he's shouting right arm, and I said to girlfriend, ignore him. I said just do my left arm, and he's shouting right arm. I'm thinking carry on with your left arm, just ignore him. And eventually came down and tapped me on the shoulder. He said your right arm. I said I haven't got one. Oh, he said. And he sort of like melted away in front of me.
Oh, mate, he must have turned purple.
I said to him, I'm sorry. I said, I heard you the 5th time. I said, but I haven't got a right arm, so I have to use my left arm. I said, but I didn't really want to stop in the middle of the dance and shout, I've only got one arm. Will you give it a rest?
So Joshua said he might join us. Joshua said he might join us on the 19th. Joshua, you don't have a choice,
that'd
mate.
be nice.
He'll come in.
Joshua doesn't have a choice. Joshua and like Huxley's in because he's local, and Joshua's in just because he knows Steve. So that's just a given. But right, what else can you impress us with, Steve? Come on, we've got to that point in the night now. We're just like we just want to, like, perform. We want you to do stuff that people would just be like, that's amazing. So what would you do? It might be something that we would just do without even thinking about it, but that you've had to adapt.
Oh, well, like everyday things, I have to adapt. I have to adapt to sort of like putting my socks on. People don't think about putting socks on, but how do you put your socks on with one hand? I mean, silly little things. So that's why everything.
What's up on the table on the camera? Let's see you put your socks on.
Well, I've got a little.
Why not?
I broke my arm when I was 13. I had to learn to get dressed like one.
Oh, there you go. Look, yeah, I can see it. Can you see the sock on? Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to watch a one-handed man put his socks on live.
Look what I've done. I've put my hand inside the opening of my sock. So that's the first step. Next step is to try to get your leg in the air, which is pretty hard. But I don't normally do that. I normally do it down at ground level, but I'm doing it at
not
high level.
This is Premier League level.
Look, then over there, look. There, look. On.
It's almost like you've been doing that for nearly 40 years.
Oh, it's uncanny, isn't it? Uncanny.
So as a quick question, obviously, going back to when the occupational therapist said you have to be able to get dressed and do this, how long did it not become like something which you'd learnt and it just became every single day?
Well, it's strange, is that, because you have to do it every single day, don't you? So for the first day is hard, second day is still hard, third day is still hard, first week's hard, first month's hard, first year's still hard, and you're thinking, I wish I didn't have to do this. I wish I could just do it two-handed, and it just becomes a chore that you realise that you've got to do, and then after a while, it's just something you take for granted. That's no longer a chore. It's just something that takes a little bit longer than it would normally. So you have to start to learn patience, and that is the key to it all, really. That if you've got no patience, you're pretty much screwed, because you do need to learn patience, because every simple little job that you used to do is now going to take you 3, maybe 4 times longer. Because even to put toothpaste on a toothbrush, you hold the toothbrush, you squirt your paste on, you brush your teeth. Well, I've got to get my toothbrush, I've got to put it down somewhere where it'll stay and it won't drop off.
Steve, go and get your toothbrush and your toothpaste.
You evil man.
No, I want to see it.
It don't mix.
It doesn't mix.
Steve, I don't want you to talk us through it. I want you to show us. We've got to that stage of the night now. Come on, pal.
Hang on, then.
Good man. That's a good lad. Well done.
Oh, mate, I love the fact that this is the. I'm insisting on this now. We've come this far.
Well, this is it now, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? We've got to that stage now. This is brilliant. But these are the sort of things that. There we go. He didn't have to go far for that. Come on,
no, I didn't have to go far.
Steve, you were grumbling like you had to. Steve, you were grumbling like you'd have to go to. You were grumbling like you were going to have to go to outside toilet for that one, but I mean,
foot of our stairs. Like I was grumbling like I'd have to go to foot of our stairs. So there's my toothbrush.
Yes.
So what I'd have to do first of all is I have to put that down somewhere.
Yeah.
And hope that it doesn't roll off. Then I've got to get my toothpaste. Colgate's. I've got to open.
Are you after an advert there?
No, I know, but you know that. No branding. So then you got to flick off the top. I've got them quick and easy tops now instead of the screw off things. They're a pain in the ass.
Lazy.
So open it.
That's just lazy.
And now,
oh, hold on, just 1 second. Is Rube Goldberg machine expert? We shouldn't be reading that out because obviously it's given him. That looks like a that we know, right?
Yeah, I don't know that might be. So then I squeeze that onto my toothbrush, I'm not going to do it because I'm going to end up with a load of toothpaste over. And then I have to pick the toothbrush up again, and then I can start. But the thing about that is, it wasn't that easy. It's like toothbrush down, toothpaste. That's 1 step. 2 steps, flick. 3 steps, put the paste on. 4th step, put the toothpaste down. 5th step, pick up the toothbrush. Then you can start. So it's taking me 5-6 steps before I can even start brushing my teeth. Whereas a two-handed person, it's all done in one movement, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
You know what, Steve? The Kathy was, when you were talking about doing, when you were showing us how you put your socks on, Kathy was saying that could be a party game for the party. And do you know what? I think that's brilliant. I think that's a great idea.
You like that one?
We should line up loads of stuff. So it's
I like that.
You know, do that at the party. What a great idea for the party that is. We'll have like putting your socks on. So the putting your socks on, tying your shoes, putting toothpaste on a toothbrush, all the stuff that you've had to work hard to do, and all of us, you know, the two-handed people find dead easy.
Yeah. Well, it's great,
like,
isn't it?
That's a definite brilliant. Like, grab 2 or 3 people.
I like that. That's a part. We could have a race, couldn't we?
2 or 3 people up and race to, you know, like generation game. You show us how to do it, and then it's who can do it the best.
And that's how to do it. Kathy just said there, put toothpaste in your mouth first. Well, I actually tried that, and I don't really like it, and it's weird, isn't it? I don't. It's just weird, because what happens then? You're trying to find your toothpaste. You're fishing around in your mouth for toothpaste to get on your brush. But I might give it a go.
Can we call that game that we're going to play "How to Make Able-Bodied People Look Like Pricks"?
I don't think that's a bad idea in general. To be fair. I'm not sure it's how that is. I think it's let's call it how to make able-bodied people appreciate how difficult it is for people who are not able-bodied.
Yeah, let's give them all
privilege and sitting there pissing them. Do you know what I mean?
I think we should call it minor inconvenience. I will tie the right arm behind the back.
I was going to say, it puts a new spin on that thing. Hey, I could do it with one arm, Tommy on my back. Prove it.
I tell you what, I don't know if anyone else has noticed it, but half of my time tonight is blocking Russian people who are throwing loads of random websites into
I've never seen it before.
Have you got loads of Russian websites? What? Are you getting interesting ones?
No, I don't know.
It's how to win an American election is basically what they're all about.
Is it? Oh well, okay. That's very important.
Anyway, so good to see that there's a Rube Goldberg machine expert in the chat section. I don't know who that is. But I think he sounds like a nice guy.
Yeah, lovely fella.
Do you think he could be an American?
He sounds like it, doesn't he?
Doesn't he? Does yeah, he does.
Those geologists get everywhere now, don't they?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I think at some point soon there could be a Rube Goldberg machine expert on this podcast at some point.
I don't see why not.
I've got a feeling in my water that, that we're recording it next week and it'll be broadcast when we're allowed to broadcast it. I've got that kind of feeling. Do you know what I mean?
He'll be a man in his dungeon.
I definitely haven't said anything there that I'm not allowed to say.
Not yet.
Not yet. Anyway,
sorry, before we get to that point, because we asked this during the podcast, but we did it afterwards. I just want to ask Steve a little quick question. What's next? Because obviously we've spoken about everything you've achieved. What's next for you?
Well, you know, I keep thinking what's next myself, and I did I tell you?
Night time, isn't it?
Well, you know, I might brush my teeth in a second, yeah. But did I tell you that I hadn't had motorbikes for a lot of years, and then I got this Montesa, a trials bike, and I made an arm, and I rode it for the first time in 37 years, so that's like 3 years ago almost. And I rode it on national TV, and I've still got that bike, but then I've never had a motorcycle license, so I decided I'm going to take my motorbike license. And surprisingly, from having no motorbikes for 37 years, I now own 9 motorbikes. And I bought another one just a fortnight ago. And the motorbike I bought a fortnight ago, I'll have to send you the picture. It's absolutely brilliant. And why it's brilliant is it's the exact same model that I lost my right arm on. And I thought, oh, I love it. So my next challenge is I'm going to ride that motorbike, and I'm going to get me.
What's it called? What's it called? I'll get a picture of it up and I'll put it on screen.
It's called a Yamaha DT250, and it's from 1975.
Yamaha CT 250
1975.
1975.
And it was yellow, was mine, bright yellow. Oh, it was bloody lovely. Yellow is my favourite colour.
I had a DT50 when I was a kid.
Oh, did you? Oh, wow. I had the DT125 from the age of 13. And at the age of 17, I bought the DT250. And at the age of 18, I lost my right arm on that DT250. But it's not the bike's fault. It was just a freak accident.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not the bike's fault.
No, not the bike's fault. And I guess even the idiot that sort of like took my right arm off, I don't suppose it was his fault, really, because he was just trying to show off and be a bit stupid. I don't suppose at any point did he think, I'll try kill Steve and rip his arm off.
So I don't want to end this on a sort of like on a bit of a sort of a miserly moment. Did you ever meet the guy that took your arm off afterwards?
Oh yeah, I knew him. He was a local kid, and it was a bit dangerous on a motorbike. So we always used to avoid him, and I just couldn't avoid him that day because that was a day that I didn't know he was going to try and do a daredevil stunt and try and jump over the top of me. I didn't even know he was there. So yeah, I know him, and strangely enough, he's a builder, and he did some building work for me maybe 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, and he pulled a wall down for me. We're going to rebuild it. And he left a house in a dreadful state. He didn't finish it. He stole the lead, and he left it in a real bad state. And to be honest with you, I fell out with him over that because that wasn't acceptable.
Wait a minute. No, Steve, you need to be quiet a minute. So you didn't fall out with him when he tried to ramp over you on a motorbike and ripped off your right arm, but
That's
you
right.
did fall out with him over some kind of building work dispute.
Yeah, some building work. It really upset me with that. He should have just done the building work. Did he charge me an arm and leg, Jimmy? Well,
Jimmy, there you go. Is this why you fell out with him? Because he charged you an arm and a leg? I told you Jimmy was good value. I told you Jimmy was good value. He only charged me an arm,
not a leg. But it's still half expensive. Jimmy's a bit quick tonight. Is he on rum and coke?
He's always quick.
Right, I think I've got it here now. Anyway, so the bike you're talking about is...
Let's have a look. Is it yellow? Is it 1975? DT250?
Well, I've Googled it. It's yellow. I can't find it. Anyway, carry on.
I like
it. Anyway, you carry on, Baz.
Yeah, sorry, I'm still laughing about the arm and the leg. So yeah. But so the question is, did you see him in the wake of the accident, or did you not see him until he came around to do work on your house?
Oh no, so I'm in between. He came round to see me after he got out of hospital, and but not to say sorry, just to say that he'd sprained his wrist and it really hurt him.
For fuck's sake!
What? Hold on a minute. No. Again, we're not going any further until we sort this out. The guy who tried a ridiculous motorbike stunt to ramp over you and caused you to lose your right arm, saw you shortly after the accident and moaned that he'd hurt his wrist.
Yeah.
And the award for tail end of the decade of the millennium goes to...
Well, I always thought there might have been an apology to come from him just to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Steve, I didn't mean to do that to you," which I would have done that to anybody. Just said, "Oh, really? I'm really sorry. I didn't really."
Yeah. Apologized.
Oh no, never. No, I never had an apology from him. But he's not. It's just that type of guy. He's not somebody you really want as a friend. He's an acquaintance. But I can't fall out with him just because he's a dipstick.
Yeah,
that's just who he is. But he doesn't have to be my best mate.
That's so Yorkshire. It was just like, I know he took my arm off, but I can't fall out with him just because he's a dipstick.
It's quite Yorkshire, isn't it? I don't,
It is quite Yorkshire. Anyway, I found a picture of your bike. I'm gonna.
Have you? Let's have a look. I hope you've got the right one.
I'm having it here now. Here we go. Here comes the bike.
Twin shock.
Here comes the bike. Is that it?
Let's have a look. Give it. Yeah, I think it is.
Oh, that's pretty though, isn't it? To be fair.
That's nice, isn't it?
That is a lovely bike.
That's a nice bike.
Well, did you say that's similar to the one you just bought?
Yeah, so the one I've just bought, I found it on eBay, and I only found it maybe it must be a fortnight ago. I've not had it that long. And this guy had it advertised on eBay for £1,995. It's seized up, so it don't run. And I sent him a message and I said, I like your bike, but I'll give you 1,500 quid for it. And he replied back to say, no, but I'll take 1,700. So I replied back like you do and said, no, I only want to give 1,500. I thought I'll try me tight Yorkshireman and just say, no, it's 1,500 quid or it's no. And he said, all right, no, I'll leave it. So then I thought, I really would like it. So I contacted him back and said, look, we're not far apart, are we really? You know, I want it at 15, you want 17. I said, I'll give you 16 if you deliver it. So he said, yeah, all right then. And I know it's not a runner. It's come from America. It needs restoring, and its engine seized up, and that just don't worry me at all. I'll have it going in no time.
But is it yellow?
So the downside about it is it's not yellow. It's not orange. Yet. But orange is nice. But I found the original mixed colour for the yellow, 1975 yellow. So it is going to be yellow, of course.
Of course it is, Steve. I didn't doubt you for 1 second.
And it's going to be my pride and joy. I need. The only thing is, I don't have enough space at home because I've got a 16 foot by 16 foot garage as a workshop, and I can't get in there because it's too busy. I own 10 houses and I can't use any of them because they're all rented out. But I'm going to buy a workshop. A friend of mine selling his workshop that also comes with 2 flats, and I thought, right, I'll have that because all the stuff I've restored can then either go into the workshop and be displayed in a showroom. And I'm going to turn it into like a little mini bar, like a little friends bar. So if I get it in time, we can always even have the one arm day party there. That would be nice.
Mate, well, do you know what? I'm not one to put pressure on you, but you know, you seem like the type of guy that can rise to challenges.
Yeah, I'll sort it. I'll sort it. If I don't get that place, I'll get somewhere else. But that's the one I quite fancy. Because it's get on me restored vintage jukeboxes and vintage one-arm bandits. Yeah, I know it's a bit of a pun and a bit of a piss take, but I do collect one-arm bandits.
So, Steve, before Mike closes, the only question I asked you when we spoke privately before is, obviously we know that what you've achieved by having one arm, and I asked you this question before. Do you think that you would have achieved more or less if you'd have never had the accident? Because obviously you're clearly very industrious and you're sort of adventurous. Do you think life would be how do you think life would be if you'd never have lost your arm? Do you think you'd have achieved as much as you did that you have up to date, or what? I know it's a bit of a question which is hard to answer, but because you'd have to sort of put yourself in that position. But you clearly are. I don't know how to describe you. There's so many superlatives, which I'm pissed now. We could actually ask you, but do you
superlatives is the word you're looking for?
Yes, exactly. Do you think?
I like that.
I'll have you speak when you want to ask this question.
Thanks, Michael. Do you think life would be like? Would you have achieved as much if you'd have been able-bodied for just that's the question basically.
Yeah, I don't know that, Baz. That's a really interesting question because you can only sort of like guess really what life could have been like. I had some great jobs lined up because I was a top student at a technical college and in Leeds, which I was training to be a motor mechanic, and I was a top student there. And I'd never been good at anything, but I was good at engineering and good at motor mechanicking. So I had some real good jobs lined up. I had a job lined up in the Formula One pits because my mate had contacts with Formula One. Another guy had the land world speed record on a motorbike that he'd built with 2 Triumph engines in, and he had some phenomenal contacts. I had contacts all over the place. I had interviews with the RAF to go into the RAF after I left college to continue my training as a technician on helicopters and aircraft. So I had some mega opportunities lined up, and of course they all just went in the blink of an eye. So when I woke up with one arm, none of those opportunities were around anymore. They'd just gone. So would I have achieved more? I suppose in the short term, I might have achieved more with 2 arms immediately after leaving college. But in the long term, I don't think I would have done as many things as I've done. So the long game has been a much better game than it possibly could have been with 2 arms. Because had I worked as a motor mechanic, yeah, I might have had my own garage, but then I might have just been working as a motor mechanic, and that might have been the life of Stephen Robinson and nothing else. Yeah. Stuck in a 9-to-5 job. Whereas I was liberated from that. I was given the opportunity to go out and do different things and not held down by a 9-to-5 job. So I did, and I did everything, and I've loved it. But there's so much stuff that I want to do. And I start worrying a bit now because I think to myself, wow, I'm 58 now, but I've got so many things I want to do. You know, I best get cracking. I haven't got time really for hanging around doing no. I need to get cracking. I've got loads of stuff to do. I feel like I've not achieved half that I'm capable of achieving. I feel I'm capable of achieving much, much more. Much more.
Do you know what, Steve? You've never let anything get in your way, and you're not going to let death get in your way. You're going to live to 170. You know what I mean? It's like,
you know what they
not
say?
Ready yet. No, not ready yet.
You know what they say the first 200-year-old person has already been born. Ooh. I hope it's me.
I think he might have been born 58 years ago.
I was hoping it might be me, but there you go. I'm nearly out of rum and coke. Oh, this is not on.
So
anyway, no. We're going to say goodnight now because I think this is the longest one we've ever done.
Oh, and it's too short as well.
I was going to say we could keep chatting, and we will when we go off air. But it's like thanks so much for everyone for joining us tonight. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Listen, please subscribe to the podcast it's on all the audio platforms. So it's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Google Podcasts, it's on Audible. It's like, I think if you ask Alexa for the Lock-In podcast, you'll get there as well.
Oh.
I don't know. That's a bit too technical for me. But yeah, if you don't forget, like if you go to thelockin.co.uk, all the links to all the audio platforms are there. So you can listen to us. You can listen to this again. You can listen to Steve's interview again.
Watch this again. Read the book.
I'll come to it in a sec, Steve. Don't worry about that. I'll plug it twice.
Alexa might even know about it. Alexa.
Yeah. So yeah, it's if you subscribe to the audio platforms, then you can listen to the podcast on the way to work tomorrow. So do all of that, and then next week on next week's show is an exclusive. I don't usually tell you who's coming up the next week because I don't usually know. But next week we are going to have an ex-professional footballer on the show. I'm not going to tell you who it is, even if I did, you won't know who he was. But he's an ex-professional footballer, and he's an ex-professional footballer from the late 90s. So
he's got 2 arms as well.
But he's got 2 arms.
The thing about that is that it's going to be a really interesting conversation because he's at the end of when, from my point of view, football was football before it got into like image rights and money and all that kind of stuff.
You can still kick each other.
It's going to be a really, really interesting conversation. So come back next week, 9:00 Wednesday, and you'll see the interview with him. And then it'll be just me and Baz after it because I'm not sure he's available for a Q&A after it. But anyway, thanks everyone for your comments. There's loads of people saying that it was great. They've really enjoyed it. So Alison, Gillian, Joshua, Kathy, and Huxley have all said they really enjoyed it tonight. Thanks again, Steve. Stick around because when we go off air, we'll have a chat after.
Yeah, I know it is.
But yeah, thanks again, mate. I've thoroughly enjoyed your company again.
Yeah, me too. Guys. Enjoyed it.
Everybody's enjoyed listening to you, and mate, we're gonna get bus loads of people up to your 40th arm.
Oh, I like that. On the
19th of April, mate. We're gonna make it a thing. Do you know what I mean? We're gonna make it a thing, and we're gonna get loads of people up to it. All right. So thanks everyone for being on. This time next week we'll be back here. So 9:00 Wednesday on this YouTube channel. Get involved. We're going to have an ex-professional footballer on board. So yeah, between now and then, have a good week, and we'll see you next time.
Just to clarify, Mike, does the ex-professional footballer have 2 arms?
He does. He's not a goalkeeper though, so it doesn't really matter.
See you later, everybody. See you later. Thank you very much.